in peril.
No. No, you're not.
Oh,
it's
fireflies.
You're not a peril.
You're Gandalf.
I'm
Gandalf.
You're Gandalf.
Might help us move faster if you sang us your mom's walking song.
Hey, go on, Pops. Give us a warble. Oh, come on, even do us some good.
At last comes their answer, through cold and through frost, that not all who wander or wander are lost.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Have you forgotten?
I just thought I'd remind everybody.
Why?
I think you're stupid. Real stupid.
Oh, I'm really scared.
Am I supposed to find them intimidating?
Your arm. Show it to me.
You're late. Our master grows impatient. He wants the Shire rats now. I don't take orders from orc maggots. Saruman will have his prize. We will deliver them.
I know I'm not the king you have awaited.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
Who among you will stand and fight?
Nope. I'm out.
These woods have never been this bare at this time of year. It's as plain as lip fungus. He's responsible, isn't he? The big fella.
What precisely do you expect me to do about it?
What you ought to have done at the camp. Take their wheels and leave them. Their wheels and leave them.
What am I looking at?
Well, I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
There are many ways to kill an orc. But for you, I will keep it strong and simple. Stab, twist, gut.
Do you know how to use that thing?
Yes. The pointy end goes into the other man.
This is going to take a lot of work.
Come at me. We will see who can score flesh.
Your flesh, cover your flesh.
Anyone that does, I will promote to lieutenant.
She ain't move.
She twisted.
She didn't move.
She didn't?
No, she didn't.
Didn't she?
She didn't.
Only twisted.
She didn't.
No, she didn't. She didn't.
My dad could beat up your dad. Let's have a laugh.
In a world of remakes and remasters,
What was once sacred and cool has now soured and become lame. Gone are the days of pops and cowabunga. Now is the reign of slurp juice and dabs. Kids these days don't even know how bad they've got it. Now it's up to the best generation to rise to the occasion and make a show that dares to go where a lot of other nerdy shows have already gone quite a bit. That's right. They're going to talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the show.
Since I just started. All right, it's good to see you.
We'll see ya. And Corwin's talking to someone else. Jeez, the professionalism.
I was going to say, now he mutes himself. He mutes himself after he's done talking with them.
Yeah, well, I saw Corwin talking during that whole intro, and I was like, I don't know if he knows he's muted or if he's talking to someone else. I know the answer to that now.
Oh, totally talking to somebody else. I'm still kind of at work.
Welcome back to the show. This is Best Gen, where nerds complain about nerdy things. The show's called Best Gen, not because we think that we're the best, but we're from a generation where things used to be better. I.e., Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, in stark contrast to the garbage that we get every week from Amazon. This week was by far the worst episode yet. I hated it with a passion, and you got a preview of the video dropping tomorrow. I only made it halfway through the episode in the edit because there were so much stupid things to call out.
You're gonna get a strike for that. You did way too much.
I didn't. Video. Nope. I've already uploaded the video by itself. I didn't get a strike.
Nice.
The first episode 1 that I uploaded, they took down after it had already passed. But I don't know. I'm pretty good at avoiding copyright. So yeah, well, we're a little short on guests. We've got a lot of people traveling, but we've got other Jared with us, and you know him, you love him. We got Corwin for a couple minutes before he has to take off. So we're gonna use him while we have him. Yeah, if you're new to the show, just a reminder: we got merch now. You can spend money on me. I don't know.
You have merch now?
Yeah, I got merch. You missed it.
What?
This shirt is called Identity Crisis. That's what I called it. So if you too want to be Mexican technically, you can buy some of my shirts. Let's just get into it. Let's talk about Rings of Power because we only have Corwin for a little bit, and oh gosh, I hated this episode so much. But we haven't really heard your opinion on the whole show yet because you've been gone. So, Rings of Power, Corwin, let it out.
All right. So I went into the Rings of Power with the same mindset I did with Kenobi. Okay, with Obi-Wan.
You're always telling me I'm too negative.
You are. You are, and I wanted to enjoy it, right? I want to enjoy this. I really do. And as far as like the cinema photography goes, it's very well done. As far as like the costuming and the CGI for the most part and all that stuff, considering, they spent $1 billion on a full season and all that. So, I mean, like, a movie that like, well, you only spent $1 billion.
You can see the money.
Right. You can see the money. Thank you. The writing has gotten progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And now this last episode is just like, what the fuck are you doing? That's my opinion. We can't cuss on this because we're trying to keep it PG-13, and I'm just coming out of work and I have a mouth at work, so if I cuss, I apologize. I will try not to. But oh my gosh. I mean, the Hartfoot story is just stupid. Straight up, it's dumb.
What story? Nothing has happened.
Correct.
They met Gandalf with his memory erased, and they've walked a bit.
Watch how it's not going to be Gandalf, but it's going to be Saruman.
Yeah.
Watch.
I've said that. I think they might bait and switch.
It might bait and switch. It's going to be one of the two, right? Because originally Saruman was against Sauron and the whole shebang. Anyway,
yeah, it was good for a long time.
I've hated the whole Neanderthal hobbits. I'm going to put it that way because that's what they frickin' are. I hate
hobbits.
the whole Neanderthal hobbit storyline. I just do. It's stupid. I don't like Galadriel at all. She is unlikable. And they're going for this strong, and this is where the woke stuff comes in. They're going for this strong woman power thing. It's crap. Her character's crap. From just beginning to end. She's a snobby, snooty witch, for lack of a better term. I don't like her. And the whole Elrond Durin relationship I liked until this episode, and then I was just like, the storyline.
It was awful.
The storyline is
that was the only part that was like quasi redeemable about the show,
right? And I really liked the whole Elrond thing because people were like, "Well, Elrond." I was like, "No. If you go back and read, Elrond lived all sorts of different cultures, and that's why in The Hobbit he was so welcoming to dwarves because he had already had friendships with dwarves. He knew what they were like. There's no problem with that."
Well, in from the source material, Celebrimbor is the one who's massively friendly to the dwarves.
Yes, yes, and that is true. And so it's like, and then the whole timeline thing, they've taken the second age, the third age, the fifth age, they've taken all that and just wrapped it up and chewed it up and spit it out. It doesn't make sense. The Lord of the Rings timeline is completely destroyed by this.
But even if you completely pull Tolkien out of the equation and ignore all of the drastic changes to lore, it's not a good story.
But see, you can't just ignore, for example,
I agree. I don't think you should pull him out of the equation.
Can we say spoilers at this point? Like, from this point on, like, anyone who's watching this, if you haven't seen episode 5, you're just going to have it spoiled. It's that simple. Yeah. The concept of the elves losing their mojo and having mithril is the stupidest, dumbest shit storyline I have ever heard.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
The reason that they give is the elves are dying because evil still exists in general, and he tried to get rid of evil by sending Galadriel to elf heaven. Because she was so full of hatred in her heart, she was prolonging evil. And now elves are, not only that, but elves are losing the light of the Eldar because a tree is dying. And they're going to fix it with Mithril, which is suddenly the remnants of a lost Cimmeril that got turned into Mithril when an elf fought a Balrog and lightning hit a tree. This is so divorced from Tolkien. It is insane.
It's not just divorced from Tolkien. It's divorced from logic fantasy in its entirety, because we know Mithril.
If you want to get rid of evil, shouldn't you want someone like Galadriel, who that's all she wants is to destroy it? Like, that argument doesn't make any sense. Oh, if you hate evil a whole bunch, then you'll still have evil. You're making it stay.
It's so dumb, because we also know that Mithril was found in other mines that the dwarves had. It was just abundant in Moria.
Yeah.
We know that it was in other places.
Yes.
It was just abundant in Moria. So they're like, oh, but no. Okay, so they've thrown that out. But here's the other thing that's stupid. I love how the whole story, like they send Elrond to go talk to Durin, and they know why they sent Elrond, but Elrond doesn't know.
Okay,
and then
no, I'm glad you bring it up because they already knew that Mithril was there. Okay?
Yes.
So there really isn't any reason they need to be being coy. So their plan is, let's send Elrond over to go talk to his friend. We won't tell him what his mission is, and we'll just hope that he becomes suspicious of his best friend. And then he'll find the Mithril that we already know is there.
And this conversation,
what is their plan?
This conversation is, and the conversation they have, like, it's the dumbest thing in the world. Elrond comes back, and they're like, I'm going to just bring the conversation down to the level that it is, because they're a little more flowery. But it's, hey, Elrond, do the dwarves have the Mithril? Huh?
I'm not allowed to tell you. I made an oath. Aren't you kind of just confirming that they have Mithril by saying you can't tell me?
Hey, Alan, ask me if I arrested someone and took someone to jail today.
Hey, did you arrest someone and take someone to jail today?
I am bound by duty that I cannot speak about ongoing cases.
If you didn't do that, wouldn't you just say no?
Thank you. There was not a single conversation on any level of this where that answer is not a yes.
It's a yes.
Right? Let's go. Let's do that. I know
the worst part is though. The worst part is they have this whole conversation, and Gil-galad is like guilting him. Look, if you don't confirm that Mithril exists, which we already know it exists, then all of the elves are going to die. And he ends that conversation saying, "I'm sorry, but I have morals, and I made a promise, and I won't betray my friend." The very next scene, he's already betrayed his friend to Celebrimbor. He's given Celebrimbor the Mithril. So what was the point of the entire scene with Gil-galad? You can tell that it's either just completely incompetent writing or reshoots that was just completely lost in the edit because they are so incompetent. They can't see that the two scenes right next to each other completely contradict each other.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Just name me one of those conversations that doesn't confirm that in any circumstance. Were you involved in any sort of crime? I can neither confirm nor deny anything that is or is not said in this hearing.
If I were arrested, I wouldn't want to comment on it.
Yeah, no comment. What? It would have been so much better if they would have had Elrond play stupid. Okay, this is coming from a cop. I'm a cop right there. Okay.
Oh shoot!
Coming from a cop.
That is what they're. Hold on. That is what they're doing, isn't it? It's the elves' fault that Durin's Bane wakes up.
Which is the Balrog.
That's 100% what they're doing.
And I think Jacob Ironside is right on that. I think it's right. I think he's right on that. But I'll get to that in 1 second.
Sorry, I interrupted your train of thought.
No, you're good. If you are accused of something, play stupid.
Yeah.
Play dumb. Don't be like, I can't talk to you. I can't. If someone comes up to me and says, do you know where the Mithril is? Do you know? Hey, do they have the Mithril? If I was Elrond, I'd be like,
what's Mithril? I thought you sent me to get a contract for building a forge. Didn't we accomplish our goal?
Yeah. What? I can go back and ask him. I don't even. They didn't tell me. I don't know what Mithril is. That's how you get through these situations. That's how it is.
Yeah.
It's not a.
Well, the reason why they didn't do that is because the script said that Elrond and Durin have to talk about Mithril at the end of the episode and come to an accord.
And see,
so Elrond didn't act like an actual human being because it would have stopped the story.
And okay, let's do that, and let's just hit the writing, and then we're going to go to that Jacob Ironside's comment because he's 100% right. Let's go to the actual storyline. If I'm the High King and all my people are going to die if I don't have a certain medal,
go talk to the dwarves.
I think I would show up myself
and just say, "Hey, we will pay you literally freaking anything.
Yes.
We need some mithril or we're going to die.
Yes. Because and he has a great bargaining chip. Here's the bargaining chip. Hey, guess what? Sauron's still alive. We know he's alive. We've confirmed it pretty much at this point.
Because our tree is dying.
Yeah, because our tree's dying. He's back. And if we don't get the mithril, all the elves are going to die, and you're going to be left fighting him alone. So not only are we
I
going to
love that Jared is just eating chips and nodding and watching this happen.
Because it is so frustrating.
I should have had some popcorn. That's what I really need.
You're a leader. What? Just get your fat butt in there. Go and talk to a king to king, man to man. Hey, guess what? I will pay you everything. We will fight the enemy together. That way you don't have to be alone. It's a win-win-win-win-win situation. Otherwise, we're going to have to go to war with you to take the mithril. Now, because you don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice. That's your other option. Your other option is you're going to have to fight the dwarves to take the mithril because otherwise your entire population is going to die. So it's either you give everything or you have to fight them. You don't have two choices. So as a king, and you think the dwarves would, and you know dwarves are going to be like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. We'll come to some sort of agreement. Yes, and that's the other thing. Why does mithril need a backstory? Why does it need a backstory?
You know, if I ever get around to writing I have several books I want to write, but I mostly just have ideas and I haven't ever gotten around to it. But I'm definitely going to include the backstory for Cole in my book. So
now you have
maybe if I'm feeling cheeky, I'll also include the backstory for Silver.
And make sure you include the backstory as well for Iron.
Yeah,
because Iron needs a backstory.
Yeah, well, because Iron is a compound. You know, it's like things mixed together or something. I don't know.
So now let's get Jacob Ironside's comment.
That
is exactly what they're doing. There's only a problem with that.
It's Disa's fault.
Yes,
it's actually Disa's fault.
Dwarves didn't start hardcore mining Moria until after Sauron was defeated, because they had to get all their soldiers together, and this was explained in the whole. They had to do everything they could to fight him, and once they fought him, remember, there's how long was it between this event, the war, the first War of the Ring, and was it 3,000 or 5,000 years? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Between Sauron's Morgoth's defeat and
Sauron's first defeat and.
Are you talking about show canon or real canon? What are you asking?
Real canon.
Real canon?
Yeah, because it even says in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf's like, we need to trust in men, and Elrond looks at him and he's like, I was there. Was it 3,000? So Jacob Ironside has that.
Yeah, so that is going to so when Sauron gets his finger chopped off.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh yeah, that happens at the end. Well, it's not even the end of the Second Age, is it?
No. It's
3,
not. The Second Age was well before this. So they have destroyed all this lore timeline wise, which just goes to show that Amazon thinks they are better writers than Tolkien, which is ridiculous on its face.
Yeah.
And so that's the big problem for me. The big problem for me is that they've destroyed all this stuff. They've done unnecessary lore changes, timeline changes. And that's what they're doing. The elves are going to tell the dwarves, you need to mine, because we need the mithril. And then the Balrog is going to rise up and is going to destroy all the dwarves. And it's going to be the elves' fault. That's 100%. I think Jacob hit that nail on the head.
Yeah. I wanted to address a couple other comments.
But it is specifically said that the dwarves were mining and they were being greedy.
Yeah.
No. And that's why
it's not going to be their fault. It's not going to be their fault.
That is in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Gandalf is talking to Frodo, and when they're in the mines, and everyone's like, "Why did Moria fall?" And Gandalf goes, "Because they were greedy. They mined too deep."
Kind of very similar to the Numenor and why they fell.
Correct.
I mean, not to the same extremes, but it's almost like Tolkien had morals, and expounded on them.
Well, you have to remember,
hey, if you're
Lord
being
of the
bad,
Rings,
it's not going to work out.
You got to remember, Lord of the Rings is a parody of Christian religion. Did I say that out loud?
Yeah. It's I wouldn't put it that way because he hated allegory. And even though he was friends with C.S. Lewis, it reflects Lord of the Rings strongly reflects his Christian morals, but it was just a story he wanted to tell.
Yeah.
But
it still should.
It's not allegorical at all. Yeah. But it is going to rhyme with Christianity because that's what he believed in. So it's going to have shared morals.
So even if it's not an allegory, it should still follow those lines and demonstrate those same principles and things.
I wanted to address this one. How did the Harfoots even survive when they're so keen on leaving people to die? That's not even the argument anymore. That used to be. Last week we talked about how that might be historically accurate with migrating peoples. That if you get injured, then you have to get left behind. I disagree. I don't think there's a lot of historical precedent in that.
What I think that you can see from that is actually that it's when people overcome that and realize to do better than that they thrive better than the migratory people. So.
Exactly. But that's not even the argument anymore, because in this episode, they propose literally just killing them, not leaving them behind. Let's go back, take their wheels, and leave them to die.
Mm-hmm. So
I hate it so much. These are not hobbits.
They're not, and I think that at the very least they have the fact that they're not actually supposed to be hobbits. They're just supposed to be their ancestors. But yeah, the one thing that I did think was funny was that the one of the ladies, the lady who's saying like, "Hey, we should have just taken their wheels and left them." She's then very shortly thereafter seen doing the one thing that they were chanting that they don't do. She was walking alone.
She was walking alone. She was.
And I'm like, wait, I thought we'd never walk alone.
I didn't see a path either. I didn't see a trail. Was she walking on? Nobody goes off trail. Also,
of course, then again, that's when something bad happened to her. So, maybe she was
Jacob Ironside brings up this comment, which is funny because I already had your tweet pulled up. It's so funny. Oh, Elendil is wearing brooms on his head. So.
Well, the one that actually made me laugh was the watching Halbrand sweep up with the worst broom ever that literally just spread whatever ore dust or whatever was on the on the ground. It literally didn't even try to gather it. It just spread it. I'm like, what?
So before the fall of Numenor, Mithril was only found in Khazad-dûm, but it's eventually found in other places, not Khazad-dûm, which makes its origin not
only found in Khazad-dûm.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought we were being corrected.
No, yeah, he was agreeing with you there.
Okay.
They're not hobbits; they're gremlins.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of defenses against the things that you guys are saying, and especially because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of the lore.
But
really
divorce yourself from lore. It's still a bad story, right?
I was saying that I really appreciated from Liz last week that she was saying, somebody who I really respect is she has a lot of lore knowledge, feeling like there was a lot more that that fit in with the lore than we're used to thinking, just because it's maybe different than what we expect. The biggest thing where I do agree with Corwin in particular is the just randomly shoving this thousands of years time period into. Like, I think they're saying they're going to do it in 50 years, but we were talking last week or a couple weeks ago.
They said the whole show will be like 50
years.
Has
this been like 3 days since all of this happened? And some of this seems like it should have taken years.
For the Harfoots, it feels like it's been months. Like they're traveling across the country.
Yeah, so it's been really kind of odd, not to mention the fact that it's like, why are these? Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the other thing too for me is that, yes, for the most part, I agree that the story is a little kind of all over the place. Well, a lot all over the place. But oddly enough, it didn't get around to the point where I'm really liking Galadriel yet, because there is a lot of she's just very unlikable. They're finally doing things that are showing her realizing she's having to apologize to people for being manipulative and mean and things like that. So I'm like, okay, you're doing some to make her less dislikable because she's just been so bullheaded and manipulative and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, I kind of think they're maybe making some, again, divorced from Tolkien, maybe perhaps, but good choices with her starting to. Because I was really worried about how the heck is she going to become this character that we know and love in the Peter Jackson trilogy and in the Lord of the Rings time period, when she's so hot-headed and never going to be proven wrong. So, like, what's going to motivate her to change? And
I don't really remember anything
No.
from the episode where she had to say sorry, though.
Well, she goes in and she apologizes, saying like,
she apologizes
I shouldn't have used you. She's also a
I
little
don't.
bit more
Does she say that though?
apologetic
Does she say that to Halbrand? She comes in and says, "Yes, I did use you, and I was right to do so." She doesn't say. She doesn't say sorry.
I thought she said it was wrong of me to use you the way that I did, but then saying it was necessary or something along those lines. So,
she goes in to justify using him.
So that is a false apology.
It's not an apology.
It's basically saying, Jared, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you got offended.
I am wrong. I'm sorry that you think that I'm an ass.
Yeah.
It's a non-apology.
I'm
so sorry that I was a jerk to you, but you were being a gigantic bitch.
Yeah.
Also, okay, how does Halbrand have a guild crest already? It's been a day.
There was something that they showed him.
They gave him.
It did kind of jump to suddenly he's allowed to do something there.
They gave him a guild crest
he's allowed to.
just because. I don't know what they mean anymore because the show hasn't explained it. But you can't work without them. You can't work without them. It's almost like maybe an analogy for immigration, because they've already hit that one on the head.
And can we talk?
They're taking our germs.
And can we talk about the Southlands real quick? That whole storyline is just a disastrous bunch of crap.
I don't know if you noticed, but the ending to this episode and the ending to the last episode is exactly the same. They literally have the same moment of who's going to fight with me, and then they all raise their hands. And the status quo has not changed one iota in this entire episode. What was Galadriel's arc? I need to convince them to go to war. That was her arc last episode, and she completed it. And then she has to do it again. The Harfoots are still walking. Last episode, they were going to get attacked by orcs at the tower. And at the end of this episode, they're going to get attacked by orcs at the tower. What's the other plot? Is there another one?
Durin and
Durin.
Elrond.
That was the only thing that changed, and it was for the worse.
It's so garbage. And the sad part is as far as the acting and stuff goes, I mean, yeah, you're going to have little quirks here and there. It just happens, especially when you're hiring all new actors. And so it's
very, not the worst acting. No,
the acting is not bad. The CGI, I mean, you can make fun of
doing a good job
of the wargs, mouth. I've seen a lot of memes where they're making fun of that.
Eyes were my biggest problem with the wargs.
Yeah, and I get that. My big thing is it's just the writing. The writing, you spent $1 billion. Who in their right mind read this script and went, this is going to be good? What?
Elblond doesn't understand the meaning of the word oath. It's because he didn't tell them about the mithril. He just showed it to them.
I can't tell you, but here's the secret, guys.
I can show you the entire police report.
I'll keep my mouth shut, but I'll show you video evidence.
I noticed everyone's motivations flip-flopped in this episode from the last episode. Elendil's motivation is completely the opposite of what it was last episode. And then you got like the Farazan stuff with his son, just not making any. I don't know what they're doing with that story, because he doesn't want to go to war, and then he talks to his dad, and then his dad says no. My boy, everything is going according to plan. We want to go to war, and then we'll take power when she ultimately fails, right? And it's going to get us a bunch of trade routes. So then he sends his son to blow up the boats that would take them to war.
I think that I don't think
that was an act of rebellion.
I I think his son decided to do that anyway because he said even.
Well,
though
it sure would have been nice if they told us why he was doing it.
I picked up on it. At least the way that I read that was very much a like.
But his
Dad,
only
you say that you want to do it, but I don't really want us.
His only motivation for going against his father is a girl.
Maybe, yeah.
It just like I don't get it.
It's very.
Also, they are an island city, an island nation, and they have 4 boats. What? Earlier in the episode, they show you a shot where they have more boats. But then
they blow up one, and 3 of them are. What?
Yeah, and then they blow up one, and they only have 3
Oh,
boats.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm just at this point, I've got to start driving home, so I'm just on like the video call.
All good.
I can still hear you guys.
I just thought it was funny to see Corwin pop up and then Corwin disappear, but now I get it.
I'm magic like that.
Yeah.
Like Gandalf or Saruman whacking the ground to push the wargs away.
Also, they've committed to going to war, and they're sending 300 people. You remember the plot of 300 and how that was a bad idea because they couldn't call it a war, and so he said, "I'm just going to take my 300 bodyguards." And they only have 3 boats, and there are supposed to be horses on those boats where there was clearly no room for horses.
Speaking of the very weird writing choices, the like, go see the Horsemaster. Oh, but I thought I was going to be cavalry. Well, then wouldn't that make sense why you were being sent to the Horsemaster?
I know. They wanted to have the dramatic reveal of, no, you're going to be cleaning up their shit.
I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding.
But if that were the case, why would you object to, hey, go look at the horses when you thought like it should have had him show up, and then they hand him a broom, and he's like, oh, and that's when he realized.
Yeah.
But his objection is, you told me I was going to work with the horses. Why are you sending me to the horses?
The closest I could get is that the Horsemaster is the stable keeper. It's like, and he knows that it's the person that's in charge of the stables, but not necessarily the commander. But I'm like, that was very weird choices there.
No, it wasn't.
And again, you
I
could
knew
still
exactly
be going
what
to
they were
look
doing.
at the horses in the stable.
You could see right through it. They wanted to have a dramatic reveal between
Well,
father and son, where Isildur felt betrayed, and it was just so stupidly obvious.
No, and to your point though, too, the weird like dynamic with him and his friends about the like he hasn't earned it, but at the same time he's one of the best.
He's better than them at everything.
And then he said, "No, I earned it just like you did this time." And like, oh, what did he do to earn it? Because we see him talking to
saved
Dad.
a guy. He saved a
I
guy.
must have missed that. I've forgotten about that.
And somehow they're not the main suspects for these boats blowing up, even though there's not a single human being who is close by other than those 2. And their excuse was, I was on a fishing boat. And Isildur's excuse is, I saw him there.
I wanted to
like,
save him.
Did you notice Isildur did not give an excuse for why he was there? He gets away with it because he saved the kid.
Yeah.
And Farazan's son, I don't know his name, was just, I was on a fishing boat at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's unnecessary conflict. Like that whole thing is unnecessary conflict.
It didn't change any of the status quo. The status quo remains unchanged. It didn't serve any point. It didn't do anything.
No.
Yeah.
It did not.
And I didn't catch
characters
that, like,
new
him
information.
saving Farazan's son was what earned him his spot in the guard, because how's that any? I don't know. That was an odd choice too. I thought. I don't know. I had enough fun watching it. And I think something to Liz's point last week. It is fun to be in the world of Middle Earth, and it looks like Middle Earth. And
it doesn't sound.
If you have it on, I was gonna say if you have it on mute, maybe it'll feel like Middle Earth, but. And again, we were talking about the music is pretty nice, but yeah, the writing and the story is still very confusing to me. I'm still like I've said a couple of weeks ago, I feel like there's a lot of things that are designed to be like, ooh, look at us setting things up for eventual reveals that all the hardcore book fans are going to be really excited about. But we also know that they're changing a bunch of things that the book fans are going to be really excited about. So those of us like me who haven't read the source material for it are just feeling confused because we can tell you're trying to set a lot of like big reveals up, and so we're confused. And then the people from the book are like, but it's supposed to be this way, not that way, and we know what's coming. You don't have to make
Also,
a big deal out of it.
How does this giant nation not already have a military ready?
Yes.
And when they start training, they're training in the middle of the street instead of a barracks. And when they're training, the goal is to score flesh, which is the last thing that you want to do when you are training.
Well, and then she was like, "Oh, congratulations, you did it!" But it was like
he cut her shirt.
Cut her shirt, not her flesh.
And she's the one that gives the promotion. They could have given the moment to Elendil, which would have been his duty. If I were Elendil, I would have showed up like, he didn't score anything. What are you talking about? Yeah. You can't, I said I would promote him, not that you could. He's just completely cucked in the scene. And the fight scene is literally the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Her dodging the attacks was so ridiculous. There's a point where she's blocking 6 swords with 2 of hers, and it makes no sense.
It was one of those things where like the fight started out, and for a little bit I'm like, ooh, they're doing a good job of setting up the rather than having somebody waiting off to the side so you're attacking one by one sort of thing. They started out not following that trope where she was able to dodge around him, or it didn't feel like there's people just waiting off the side. And then as the fight went on, it became more and more contrived that they weren't.
If you play it back, there is not a single stroke that is aimed at Galadriel.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she dodges, like the first opening lunge, she literally twists in place. And you can see he was already aimed to the side. Mm-hmm. It is so horrible. The choreography is garbage.
This goes to show that the art of actors doing their own stunts and stuntmen is in Hollywood in general making huge hits.
Yeah.
Huge hits. The actors don't want to take the chance.
Sorry, I think we've got bad reception on you, Corwin. Yeah, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, I was also surprised that Brandon.
I thought that I listened to the rest of their podcast, and I thought that they were saying they explained some of the things that they
did give a lot of critiques, but their overall thing was like, oh, we still liked it, and I'm like, I like you, Sando, but stop. He's also trying to court Hollywood right now and get adaptations of his own, so I understand he doesn't want to say anything too harsh, but I think if you listen to the actual criticisms they're giving. I think you can infer what.
And I think that there is something to because somewhat, again, you see that in Lord of the Rings, in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, they did have to make adaptation, and these guys have to make adaptation. I agree with what you were saying, Corwin, that a lot of the adaptation they're making is more than necessary or is worse than necessary, but. And I think that Brandon is
Peter Jackson's adaptation is to condense the story into movie size.
Yeah, but this
Rings of Power adaptation is Lord knows what. It's so unnecessary, the changes that they're making, but and you can tell that a lot of those choices are being made for wokeness, their message that they want to send.
It's because they think they're better writers than Tolkien.
Yeah, there's adaptation and then there's deviation. There's a huge, and Liz makes the point that they're having to make choices on behalf of Tolkien, which to an extent I understand, but there's a huge difference because the Silmarillion is bullet points. Okay, that's it. It's not a huge thick story. Okay, there's a huge difference between filling in the gaps between the bullet points and adding characters to be able to tell that story. Might be understandable. There's a huge difference between that and just erasing the bullet points and jumbling them around and fitting. Oh, nope, we got a black elf in here, and just like sewing it all together like Frankenstein's monster.
I will say what I was talking to my brother earlier today and mentioning that they're, to me at the very least, I mean, I've heard a lot of your criticisms that I feel like you're feeling like you see it on screen, but I don't feel like I see it on screen or in universe as much. Their agendas, what they're working on, what they really want to push forward with the inclusion and all that, which is a good agenda to have in a general sense, just when it overrides the story. But it hasn't felt like I've seen that necessarily on the screen. That being said, I still don't think that they're doing this particularly well, and they're like, I don't know, I don't personally see it as coming across as like we're letting this overtake our story. It's just like we're doing this, and then also our story is not.
When you write it backwards, though, that's exactly what you're doing. When you start off saying, "Hey, we need to have representation, and let's write the story around it," you're already on. It doesn't like it's. Yeah. That is where the mistake is made, because they're not focused on the story, so the story is garbage. So what you're saying to me is exactly what I'm saying. Like we're saying the same thing, Jared. The reason the story is bad is because it was approached with that intent and not with the intent of writing.
It's just the way that it's coming across isn't feeling like those are as connected as I've seen in other places where it's like you can tell. To me, there are other places where I feel like I can see the
sorry,
the agenda, the things they want to come across taking over the story. And this one, it feels disconnected in terms of, they have this, but the story doesn't feel like it's affected directly by that, and yet the story still is kind of, I feel like, suffering. Yeah, it's not as well written. So
the whole elves are taking our jobs thing was when it just hit the nail on the head. I'm like, yeah, look, I don't know how anyone could deny it at this point.
It just feels silly. Like the whole thing just feels silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the scene where they're blowing up the boat, Farazan's kid like trips and falls, but it doesn't show him fall. It's actually really confusing how they edited that together. He just turns around and he's laying on the ground, and I was just like, what's going on? Oh, Mark's back. He's got it. He's bringing his rocks. Okay.
He's getting ready for the rocks.
I think you'd be mostly. I don't think Jared has said anything worthy of rocks just yet.
Not as much as usual.
Oh, okay. And then going to Arondir and the whole we're getting attacked by orcs. They present it like it's an ultimatum. We can either stay here and fight and die, or go surrender and die. When they're completely ignoring the obviously practical choice. Why are they still there? Why not run away? The elves have to dig their way forward because they can't walk during the day. Y'all could y'all could literally just leave. They would never be able to catch up with you.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
Yep.
And then they show him the knife, and Arondir's like, I've seen this knife before. They walk 2 feet to the left, and he moves some leaves. Says, "Hey, this is the knife. I know exactly what it is. It's a key." Like there is no subtlety. There's no exploration. Even if you think that the world that they're presenting to you is pretty, we're not exploring the world. Like they're just telling us stuff. Like you could have had a scene where you did some where you get like Gandalf in the first movie where he runs off to
Minas
Tirith, starts going through books and looking to like, okay, this means this and that means that, and all these ancient scrolls are telling us, oh no, the sword is a key. The sword's a key, guys. We got to keep it away from the enemy, otherwise they're going to be able to open stuff.
I was also really confused with the editing on that one because it felt like he was saying, "Oh, I know what this is," and then you see somebody in the background of that same shot starting to clear away it looked like it was some other person clearing away
it was Arondir, yeah. The editing is
garbage. And then it cuts to it was Arondir clearing it, but it seemed like it was somebody else at first. I was very confused.
Did you guys notice that they've stopped using their transitions?
Yes.
The first three episodes they had those map transitions, which were I applauded. They were actually
they had
really
one
good.
Time where they did that with the Harfoots, I think, in this one.
Yeah, that was a montage though. It wasn't a transition. It was just showing their journey, and it started with Harfoots, showed a map, and then ended with Harfoots.
Yeah. But they did use the maps again, and I was like, "Hey, the maps are back."
Yeah, but like that was actually a good choice the show made that helped show the vastness of this world, and now it's just completely out the window. Like I genuinely think they're running out of money. If you notice in the Arondir subplot, I want to pull this out. They don't even have the money for like 100 extras. Look at this. Look at this. It's kind of hard to see in this picture. There's like 3 copies of the same people.
Huh.
Just copy and pasted. You can see it here too. There's a whole group. This group, that's the same person. They're all numbered out. This isn't a lot of extras.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 100 people. They can't even afford 100 extras for a scene. I get that this is nitpicky, but it's a symptom, and pointing it out, it's part of the bigger problem as a whole, that these people just do not have the same passion that Peter Jackson clearly had for his craft. Like, let's see if I can find just the difference between yeah, here we go. So we got Elendil's armor, which just looks like plastic and brooms, and this was 20 years ago, and they actually made it in real life, and it looks
and he was an extra. He was just a guard for Minas Tirith, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see if I can find a picture of
yeah, that was the guard's armor for the tree in
Minas
Tirith, and they really did create that.
I'm gonna find a close-up of Elendil. I'm using it in a screenshot later, but where's the good one? Where's the good one? Here we go. This isn't from the movie. I believe this is a hot toy. This is a toy that was made from his character model, because the only screenshots of Elendil in the movies, they're really blurry because he's in the background, you know, like he dies pretty quick. But this is what his armor looked like. That looks so good. Mm-hmm. And then you get freaking this. And in this episode, you got to see the Queen's screen printed T-shirt armor, which it's so embarrassing. This show, even though you can see where the money went, it's painfully obvious that it was not spent wisely. Because even though you've got these gorgeous backdrops and you've got a couple scenes where the CGI looks fantastic, the show still looks cheap to me. I would take the 20-year-old dated special effects from Lord of the Rings over this in a heartbeat. Because it's not applied well. They had so much money, and you still get like some of the CGI is bad too. Like I've already completed with the costumes a lot, but like when Galadriel is climbing up in episode 1, she's climbing up the wall and she like stabs her dagger in. That is some of the worst CGI ever. Like it looks like she has no weight and like there's no strain at all, and it's just so painful.
Most
it really
of the time
does.
It looks good, but
yeah, it looks worse than Shadow of Mordor. I've been playing that.
It is interesting to see where they've spent their money. I would be interested to see their books. I would be interested to see their books.
Yeah. Someone pointed out in the comments that this feels a lot like the plot of The Producers, where they're intentionally trying to make a show that's horrible because they can make more money from the investors if it fails, and no one will ask questions. But here's a good.
It's sad.
The fight.
I don't understand why they can't.
Yeah, I want to show, just for contrast, the fight scene that we got with Galadriel was garbage, and someone shared this. This is a clip from a YouTube video that I'll link in the description. You can watch the whole thing, but this is just a fight scene with one guy in armor fighting multiple opponents at the same time, and this is just a nobody on YouTube. These are just LARPers who wanted to make a cool thing, and
I've seen this. It's really good.
These guys are more competent than the billion-dollar Lord of the Rings. We probably don't need the sound for this, but like, it's so cool. And what makes this fight scene cool is he's using the armor like it would be used. So like he's intentionally taking blows where he knows he can take them, and it's bouncing. And when they try and kill him, they're trying to reach for the gaps in his armor. There's a point where someone like grabs his helmet and tries to stab underneath it. And this is how fights would work. This is so cool. These are LARPers, guys, and they're doing a better job than billions of dollars can pay for.
And that was what I was saying when I broke up that first time. If I'm coming in a little clearer now.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
The art of combat in movies and extras and the other stuntmen and women is being lost in Hollywood. I mean, for example, look at like Jackie Chan. Why are his movies really good? He did all his own stunts. He's broken a ton of bones. He did everything he could to make it real. Why are Tom Cruise movies so good? Like the Mission Impossible stuff. Why are his fight scenes so great? Because he does his own stunts. Because he's learned. Why are Tom Hardy's and Christian Bale's so good? Why are the early Marvel movies, like the first 10 years of Marvel movies, why are they so good? Because all the actors did their own stunts. You know, I mean, look at Tom Hardy. I'm going to just take Tom Hardy, for example.
I love Tom Hardy.
Did you see that he randomly entered a jiu-jitsu contest in England? Like a top-level jiu-jitsu contest?
Because he actually knows how to fight?
And he won?
I didn't hear that, but I believe it.
He did. He won. He went in and entered last minute and won the whole thing. And we're talking like black belts, high-level jiu-jitsu guys, and he went in and kicked their butts. And that's because he said, look, I spent 2 hours a day doing boxing. Then I spent 2 hours a day doing Muay Thai. Then I spent 2 hours a day doing jiu-jitsu. Then I spent an hour a day lifting weights to prepare for XYZ role. And I've done that for multiple movies. And so I know jiu-jitsu. I've trained in it. And he can do that crap in real life. And he's bloody good.
Well, we used to hire people because of their skills. And now we're hiring because of diversity.
You know, there's plenty of times where actors have to do something. And there are times that, Tom Cruise was told by the director, no, you need to sit down for this because we
imagine being the guy that has to tell Tom Cruise no, though. Like, you're gonna get spit in your food. When
Chris Hemsworth said the same thing before. He tried to do all his own stunts. He did all his own stuff. And then every once in a while,
as much as he could,
the director would come in, the executive power, and be like, no, you're not doing this one. Sorry. And that's just, that art is being lost in Hollywood. And it's blatantly obvious. It is blatantly obvious. And it's too bad. It really is too bad. Because they could make these, same thing with some of the Obi-Wan stuff and some of the other Star Wars stuff we've seen. There are people who do this stuff for free to enter into movie competitions or fan competitions, and the fight scenes are better than these billion-dollar Hollywood big money movies. And it's so disappointing, and it's so sad.
There is no excuse for the quality of the Rings of Power, and that's my biggest thing. Like there, we can jump through hoops to try and justify, oh, maybe this, maybe that, but it is just sheer incompetence, and in some cases, actual malice.
And that's where it would be nice to look at their books. I would love to look at their books and see where they spent the money. Where did you spend the money?
Well, it has about 40 executive producers.
And there you have it. 40 executive producers, each pulling down a couple million a piece or $1 million a piece. And then the actors, again, why couldn't they? Because remember, this is all super woke, and the actors are making tons of money, and we need extras, but we can't pay the extras a couple $100 a day. We've got to pay the extras a couple $1,000 a day, and just because we've got to have it be more equitable, like that wouldn't shock me if that's what they were doing, and that's why they couldn't get 200 extras.
But like that wasn't even a big scene, though. That is, as far as extras go, that is negligible. That scene had right. a handful of people,
and extras are usually paid, anywhere from $200 to $500 a day, depending on the scenes. And that's not a lot of money when you're talking. All right, we need to hire 100 extras. Yeah. All right, so we're looking at what, 20 grand? When you have a movie that's $1 billion, they have spent $1 billion on how many episodes are we going to have? 8, right? 8.
Was it 8? I thought it was 10. But
I think this season it's only 8.
They have spent $120 million. $120 million on each episode.
It's insane.
And most of the actors are the same actors. The costume designs are going to be the same costume designs. They're not doing 1 billion different sets. It's just a couple of sets, and they're doing CGI. They have spent $120 million for 45 minutes.
What are the sets? They have a couple of trees in the elf city. And they've got a couple of sets in Khazad-dûm, but most of that is CGI.
Yes.
Numenor is where they built a lot of the physical stuff. But nothing's happening in Numenor.
What is it?
I don't know. They leave Numenor to do the fighting, and then there's the tower fort. That's about it. And the rest is like shot in the woods, right? There aren't any other real sets.
And if you add that up with all that, how much money does that come down to per minute? Because these episodes are 45 minutes to an hour, right? That's what we're looking at.
They've all been over an hour.
So you're looking at an hour. So you're looking at like 70 minutes. Let's just say 70 minutes. Yeah. You're spending almost $2 million a minute. It's $2 million a minute for your show.
Sounds like my ex-wife. I don't know.
Actually, I do think I actually kind of like Nikki's last comment here. Modern writing, mystery equals mystery box and ultimatum writing, and I agree that's kind of a problem. I do think that there's a lot of. It feels like there's a lot of trying to set some mystery boxes, but I feel like they're trying too hard without it being earned, and then a lot of ultimatum, like trying to set really high stakes when it doesn't necessarily need to be in there. So
yeah, there are not 2 writers. It's 60 people in the HR department that wrote this. Yes, yeah, like there's so many. It's insane. I wanted to address another comment though. When they said the game looks like Shadow of Mordor, great game. Yeah, it's not saying that the game looked bad, but the comment was when you add in all the fast travel, it is a lot like a game.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that one. Okay, I'm looking through my notes. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about. I think we've hit all of the other. I mean, you got Gandalf like freezing his arm. That CGI looked so bad. The frost on his arm. I'm sorry that
didn't bother me.
You could do that in After Effects and make it look better. But then she randomly grabs the arm that's freezing. Like, wouldn't you like touch his shoulder or something? I don't know. It's silly. But the part I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, Durin and
Elrond.
I was going to say Isildur. Durin and Elrond. I hate. And the plot makes no sense. It's so flip floppy, and then they come to an accord, and like Durin's like not even offended. When he admits he lied to him, when he like made him, he wouldn't even talk to him in episode 2 because he was away for so long, right? Like he's showed that he has this easily offendable character, and then they build it up like there's going to be conflict, and it's just oh, that's okay, bro. I understand.
Because you didn't know.
I did. I kind of liked the scene where he says, like, say it again, even though it made me feel Twilight. Say it out loud, vampire, right? But like, just because I like Duran's acting, I liked his little you see him starting to smile.
Cheekiness,
but it also has the worst line from the entire show, where he says, "Give me the meat and give it to me raw."
Yeah, that's what someone said that in the comments further up at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. But before that, there's also a horrible line of dialogue where he says, "Why don't you just tell me what's on your mind?" And Elrond responds, "Well, a burden shared can either be doubled or halved depending on the person you share the burden with, what kind of mood they're in." And I was like, what is this writing? It's childish. It's literally a 14-year-old trying to sound deep. It's these diversity hire writers trying to sound Tolkien-esque.
And I'm not even,
and it's garbage.
I didn't even mind that one as much personally, because I think there's some interesting thoughts behind that. But yeah,
I think even beyond that, it just goes back to, and I was thinking about this the other day. 15 years ago, what was being discussed? And in our generation, we're getting ready to graduate high school, and the kids, 15 years ago, your 10-year-old kids, your 20-year-old kids, or our generation, your 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, participation trophies were really being discussed, right?
Yeah.
You're always right, and that has really, we're still dealing with it today, but like, it's always right. Oh, you 2 + 2, you said it was 5, and if you explain why you got there, then we're not going to mark it as wrong. And oh, your ideas are always so great. All that stuff happened about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
8 to 10 years ago.
And these are the people who have grown up and are getting jobs now.
They have grown up and they're getting jobs. And
Sorry,
so
saying they've grown up is being generous. They've gotten older and they're getting jobs now.
Yeah, they've gotten older and they've gotten jobs. That 16-year-old who went his whole high school, or that 15-year-old who went his whole high school, who wrote whatever he wanted for creative writing class, and the teacher, rather than teaching him and being like, no, your creative writing really isn't that great, now is a writer for Netflix or Hulu, or in this case, Amazon, and is writing this bull crap. And that's what we're getting. That's what this is. And I've come to understand that because I'm seeing it more and more and more. And it clicked on me the other day. That's where this is coming from. That's where this is coming from.
Duran also has a line that brings into show some of the world building in the show. He mentions how he doesn't like being out in the sunlight. He's like, I got to get back home. I don't like all this sunlight is making me is making my stomach sour. So how does he have a black wife? Dwarves don't like the sunlight.
On that point, though, I actually liked his wife in the second episode. I really liked her.
Her acting in the second episode was some of the best the show has. Her acting since then has been clearly like, oh, she's a stage performer.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very similar to the girl from
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Reva.
Yeah, Reva. They are stage actors. You can like see them like projecting and like moving their hands a lot. And like,
but her acting in that,
I didn't mind her at all.
Her acting in that second episode was I loved her character. I did. I still like her character, and I understand her acting, but I still like her character. She
doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I think her character is fantastic, and my wife loved the character because when there have been moments in my life personally where I've had somewhat similar situations to a Duran Elrond type thing.
Yeah.
And my wife has been the one to do exactly what she did. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And so I don't know, her acting was phenomenal. I really like her character and her acting. And
yeah, I know. Your wife is always lying to me when I come over to your house and ask where you're hiding your meat.
That's a very personal question, Alan.
I just want the meat raw. Just give it to me, Corwin. But every
You
time
can neither confirm nor deny.
It's like, oh, he is mining or something.
I can neither confirm nor deny if I have meat at my house.
Sorry, I had a point and I forgot it. An example of her overacting, though, at the scene where he's lip reading, where Elrond is lip reading, and he follows them. They're talking, and then it zooms out, and they start walking away, and she spins and goes like, "Wah!" like with her cape, and walks away like this. And I'm like, it looks so stupid. It looks so bad. You could tell she's a stage actress. Yeah. And the bait and switch thing with the table, I thought was pretty juvenile. I did not like that scene at all. Oh, you didn't mind it. Our graves. I just wanted to get a table for my wife. The reason why is because up until that point, it was actually a good. It was the first time the show had like tension. Like racial tension between the dwarves and the elves. It was the first time that it gave a reason for the dwarves not to help the elves with the mithril situation, because that was the first time it felt real to me. I was like, oh, he's mad because the elves are so short-sighted because they live for so long that they probably dug up some dwarven grave to make their dining table out of. So you can understand why there would be tension between the two races. It turns out it was just a joke, baby. I just wanted a table for my mama. The bait and switch was horrible. Where does Arondir get his hair cut? I do not understand how he gets his hair cut. That fade is so fresh. You cannot do it without a buzzer.
Ain't nobody gonna pass me. I am so fresh and clean. So fresh and so clean.
Again, his short hair is the short hair that bothers me the least of all the elves' short hair. I don't like Celebrimbor or Elrond's short hair. I don't think it looks good at all.
I hate it so
this is a good comment.
This is a really good point. Yeah, the entire what makes Tolkien great is the journey. It's about and this is not about the journey at all. It's about that they know that there's a point that they need to get to at the end of the season, which I already know what it's going to be, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys. Spoilers, it's not good. And they're just writing to that point. They're writing these stories backwards. It does. It feels like a video game. But I think I've gone through all of my points from this episode. It was so boring. Like nothing happens, and the status quo was not changed. Like I was legitimately struggling to stay awake watching this episode. But you guys have anything else to say about Rings of Power? Because we got two other shows to discuss.
No, I really have been mostly enjoying it. It's been I've wanted to enjoy it more, and it's there's stuff that there is enjoyable there, but it really is. I'm feeling confused most of the time. Like I said, because it feels like they're trying to set bigger things up, and yet I'm more confused. So yeah.
The dwarves are definitely holding the acting high ground. Yeah. Yeah, Corwin, you have not watched not House of the Dragon yet, right? Oh, he switched cameras again. Hold on. Which one are you on? Why do you have 3 cameras?
Sorry.
You're connected on 3 devices.
Close the other ones out.
Close them.
I don't have anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Look at this. There's 3.
I think it's because I've swapped Wi-Fi's a couple of times.
Like you did.
I think it's because I've swapped Wi-Fi's a couple of times. So on my way home, I was using my hotspot, and now that I'm home, I connected to my home internet. So I think that's why there's 3.
You haven't started watching House of the Dragon yet, right?
I have.
Oh, you have? It's good, right?
I've enjoyed it.
Both of these shows, going into them, I was expecting to hate them.
Sure.
Because Game of Thrones butchered the ending horribly. I thought I could never.
I can neither confirm nor deny any comment or that has been said
about clones. Like
I can't talk about them.
The difference in the quality of the writing between House of the Dragon and Rings of Power is night and day. You want to know the difference between House of the Dragon and Rings of Power? Rings of Power looks down on its audience, but the House of the Dragon looks up. That's why one's sinking, like rocks and boats. But they trust the audience. They don't spoon feed you everything. They'll have a scene where 2 characters are talking, and they say that the dialogue is out there, but they're actually talking about 6 different things because there's so much subtext and so many things going on that you could interpret the scene in infinite number of ways. It's amazing writing, and Rings of Power will spoon feed you the same thing. Like, hey, remember this, remember this, remember this. We just really want to make sure that you know what we're doing. Like when they cut back to and I made fun of it in my edit, when they cut back to the hole that Gandalf made. They had to show you the flashback. Remember when Gandalf did this? Well, now it's a bit later. You know how they could have done that better? They could have showed Gandalf, current day Gandalf, sleeping on the floor and like zoomed in on him and then faded to the hole where you see the outline of his body in the same shape. That would have been a good transition. Or just show us the hole, because we remember there's only been one hole in the show so far. We remember where it came from.
And this isn't Raised by Wolves. There's not tons of holes in the ground.
I know.
And that's the difference when it comes to, like you're saying, Game of Thrones.
Sorry, Game of Thrones, it seems dark and rapey. It is. So
yeah, you're not wrong.
It's not for everyone, and I definitely can't recommend it to people because of how dark it is. But if you're into it, you'll like it. I'm literally just contrasting the quality of the writing and dialogue.
That's the big thing. Is it is much better written, much more cleverly written. Everything fits together so much better. You like the characters so much more. You hate the characters so much more, but it for the right reasons. And
it is very dark though, and it's a little bit rapey.
It is a little bit,
yeah, there's some scenes in Game of Thrones, and I know in Reign of Fire there's gonna be as well. And that's just the difference between, I guess, Tolkien's writing and George R.R. Martin's writing. When it comes to who they are. But again, it's because the writing in Game of Thrones, season 8 aside, doesn't hold your hand. Yeah. It doesn't. It's fast paced. It knows where it's going, and it's getting there, and it's developing characters and journey along the way.
Do you know why? Because it expects you to rewatch the episodes. And then when you get it, you're like, oh, I missed the subtext here. They weren't talking about going to the bathhouse. They were talking about this other character and this thing that he did, right? Because for Game of Thrones, you wanted to rewatch it.
Yes.
Well, and there's
Rings of Power. I have to rewatch the episodes to make my meme edit, and it is so painful. It drains the life from me, and when I'm done with this, I'm never coming back to it.
I would agree with that. I'm not.
There's even a level where I'm getting. There's occasionally times where I'm a little lost by the levels of like, hey, there's intricacies and like not quite sure I understand or am reading the right interpretations or intentions from the different characters. But it's not something that leaves me feeling confused in a bad way, as opposed to Rings of Power, where I'm just like, I don't. But why? As opposed to the like, so did they mean that, or did they not mean that, or did they mean this, or did they mean that? You know, so it's so much better done with all that. So
yeah, it is better written. The quality. I don't feel like the quality is as good as the original Game of Thrones.
No, it's not.
But as far as like,
it's always going to have that sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, but as far as the acting and stuff, and as far as the storyline and how it's written, it is contrasting it. It is a night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have not rewatched The Wheel of Time either. Wheel of Time is in the same boat as Rings of Power. It's horrible. Another good contrast is Andor. I don't know if you watched it yet, Corwin.
Have not seen it yet.
I am shocked that I liked it, because Star Wars is dead to me. I no longer care about the Star Wars universe, and it used to be my favorite thing in the world. I still rewatch original trilogy because it's still good, but what Disney has done to Star Wars has completely turned me off to the entire franchise. And the writing in Andor is actually subtle. They don't hold your hand. There are a couple moments where it's like, okay, that's really on the head. But for the most part, like, they just do things and let you fill in the blanks. It is too long. Episode 2, you can pretty much just take out.
Yeah, I didn't
just
love
keep episode 1 and 3,
yeah.
and nothing changes. So there's no reason for it to be this long. I like Diego Luna. I don't think that they're giving him enough stuff to be as interesting as the side character, which is the policeman hunting him down, who is incredible and by far the most interesting character on the show. And
now I'm gonna have to log off, because now I usually don't care about spoilers, but I just heard from Alan, and we have talked about hating Star Wars at this point, that you like Andor. So now I've got to go watch it. I don't want spoilers.
Okay.
La 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 la.
I'm not going to, but also the side character villain is kind of right.
I had that debate with my brother a little bit.
But let's not go into it yet. Let's not go into it. But there are things that do bug me. Like, you can see the vestiges of wokeness. Like, they're hitting the whole all cops are bastards pretty hard. Like in episode 1, they're like, oh yeah, they're all like that. They all just come here and harass people for no reason. And like, come on.
No.
Especially after they show you in episode 1, they're not really the ones that did the bad thing. I mean, they started doing a bad thing, but yeah, it's just, that being said, I don't think it feels like Star Wars. And it's the best thing that Disney Star Wars has done with Star Wars. And it feels like a generic fantasy. It's the most competent thing that they've made so far. Well, and it doesn't feel like Star Wars, which is
good.
Pretty sad. I liked season 1, and I liked 2 episodes from season 2.
Those 2 episodes of the Mandalorian that were actually in the book of Boba Fett somehow that devolved. Those were okay.
Season 2 devolved into member berries. Hey, cameo this, cameo that. Remember, Luke Skywalker was done well, but
that was done really well. I'll fight you on that one.
My internet. Sorry. I don't know why my internet just like cut out. You guys were talking and then it just like blip. I'm like, what?
Anyway, so I liked it. I still have a lot of reservations, and and there are things that bother me. But because the writing is done so well, I'm kind of willing to overlook the little vestiges of wokeness that would have turned me off.
I really do feel like it's doing well. To me, it's hitting closer to that level of like the of Mandalorian. It's not perfect, but it's so much better than Boba Fett was and Obi-Wan.
Oh, miles.
So much better. Yeah, miles better.
It's slow.
Yeah.
And too long.
But
I'm
been enjoying it.
I'm interested in the world building they're doing, and it's not a bad story.
Yep.
Give me this week to catch up.
Yeah,
We'll watch it.
And you know how much I've hated Star Wars. Okay, okay. I'm not always negative.
On
this is basically a ringing endorsement of
I'm just
the
negative
perfection of this show,
most
'cause if
of
he's
the
liking it,
time.
you know.
Okay.
On another note, have you seen the
She-Hulk?
Cyberpunk
Yes.
Edge Runner?
No, I've heard great things. I don't have Netflix right now. I
You
have
mean Summer
HBO.
hasn't put that on?
Well,
signed
we're,
back
you know,
up for it?
our budget's kind of tight, so I have HBO right now, and we're gonna go back to Netflix when Knives Out 2 comes out. So, okay,
should be pretty soon. I think. I thought
they keep pushing it back though. I think it's like not till December now. I don't know.
They just came out with a trailer.
When you see it, it is.
I've heard great things.
It is on the same level as Arcane.
Yeah.
And I'm not an anime fan. I don't watch anime. I don't like anime. It is an anime show. It is amazing. They did a phenomenal job. And for those people who are like, well, you don't like Galadriel because she's a woman. The main character in Edge Runners, her name is Lucy.
Yeah.
And she is awesome. Like a perfect main character. Oh, guess what? She happens to be a woman.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So when you do get that, Alan, it is really.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out and see what I see.
Yeah, it is.
Putting it on the same level as Arcane, that's high praise there. That is.
No, it is. It is the same level. It is phenomenally done.
Which is sad because Netflix axed over half of their animation department. So I don't know if they'll get season 2s. Arcane is a different studio. Netflix is just distributing it. But a lot of Netflix did have a lot of good animation stuff, like the Castlevania series was super good. So there's a lot of people got axed from the animation department, and I don't know if they're getting season 2. Like the stuff we're seeing now is stuff that was finished, already paid for, right?
Did any of you guys ever check out?
So it's sad. So even if it is good, it might not get a season 2.
Did any of you guys ever watch any of Cobra Kai? I
Yes.
just watched that season 5 of that.
We watched the whole season of Cobra Kai getting our graphics cards.
We waited in a car for like 12 hours.
For those of you who want that, the details.
Yeah, there's a video. I'll link it.
Almost getting robbed.
We almost got robbed.
Waiting all night
to get
in the middle of a blizzard snowstorm.
Oh, it was
to have a chance at getting a graphics card. We happened to be the first people in line. That's right.
Yeah, because we didn't sleep.
Because we
just
did
watched
not sleep.
Cobra Kai,
and we watched Cobra Kai. Yeah, it is.
It's good.
It's definitely not a perfect show.
It's dumb fun. It's dumb
fun.
But I will say that they do have relatively clever writing. I think they're falling into a pretty consistent.
Oh yeah,
but they do set up
drama
the characters well.
And writing is really good. The plot is it's pretty stupid. Okay, you have people you have a gang war in school, and like one person gets suspended. Okay,
the plot for season 4 and 5 is pretty dumb.
But I really have appreciated.
It's so entertaining, and the characters are written so well. You don't.
That's
care.
the thing. Yeah,
I was in uniform, SG. By the way, go watch the video. I was in uniform when we almost got robbed. It was hilarious.
The windows were tinted, so
the windows were way tinted.
They
This
didn't
dude
know
was
they
totally going to do something, and then he got close enough. Finally, after watching us for like 45 minutes, he finally got close enough where it looked like he was going to do something stupid, and we kind of rolled down the window a little bit, and he saw me in full gear, like my armor on and everything, and he was instantly like, "Oh shit!"
Literally jumped on a train.
Yes, literally jumped on a train and ran. I was like, "Oh, that's nice." Like, meh.
He was looking for a car to break into and didn't see that we were inside.
Anyway, well, I'm going to take off, gentlemen. It was fun.
Yeah.
I've got to go be a dad and get my kids to bed.
Oh, here's a meme for you. Here's a meme real quick. So
on your way out.
There we go. It's Jeff Bezos and Professor Tolkien. He's got a PhD in not understanding anything Tolkien's ever written. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
I agree.
All right, gentlemen, we will see you. It was a blast.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Now he won't leave.
So how many of the core ones have we lost? Have we lost them all, or just
I think
that
they're
one?
all gone. They're all gone.
Just boot them out of here.
Yeah, I liked Andor. It was good.
That's really good. I'm glad to hear it. I agree. Episode 2 was not the strongest. I kind of felt like what
I
did we get out of
genuinely
episode 2?
Don't remember what happened.
Well, and I think part of that is the fact that they had all 3 episodes come out, and so it kind of became a bit of a blur. So
like I can tell you this happened in episode 1. This happened in episode 3. And I'm trying to think of episode 2.
I think if anything, we get a little bit of the setting up of the flashback time.
Even the flashback time, that goes from them walking from their village to looking at the ship that crashed.
It's not much,
and that's all you get from their backstory. I'm like, this should have been one episode.
It'd be one of those things where like I'd have to watch them kind of more individually to then say like, okay,
I'm taller
Yeah.
than Corwin. He's actually kind of short.
I don't think I've actually met Corwin in person, so.
No.
But anyway, so yeah, I was very, very pleasantly surprised because I've not given up on Star Wars. Star Wars is not dead to me. I refuse to let Star Wars be dead to me.
Does it?
As much as they sometimes try.
Does it feel like Star Wars to you though?
To me, it feels like, because again, Rogue One felt pretty Star Wars, and this feels pretty consistent with Rogue One. Very, I don't know. It's there's a lot of things that other people have said feels like Star Wars to them that doesn't necessarily scream Star Wars to me, but I recognize that hey, this is a part of the universe for a lot of other people, and so to me, I'm okay with it kind of expanding a little bit of the feel what Star Wars feels like. So to me, it still does mostly still feel like Star Wars. So I mean, I can't really point to what does or doesn't for it, but
I mean,
for me,
it
still
really could just be any sci-fi.
Yeah, I
suppose
it could be,
you have characters saying shit. And it's exploring the whole like gray like Star Wars has always been good and evil, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying I don't like them exploring a new direction. It's just ironic to me that this is the least Star Warsy Star Wars thing that Disney has done, and it also happens to be the best thing that they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good to explore a little bit more of that ambiguity, which is again something that when we were first introduced to Andor in Rogue One, that's that sort of thing that you start to see the kind of darker side of the rebellion, somebody getting his hands dirty.
Yeah.
And you see him because he's our protagonist, you see you're still following him and you know that he has good intentions and desires or whatever else going on.
Yeah.
But you see him doing things that are causing a problem that he's
a murderer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to me, what I really liked about that was
he was being robbed.
He was being,
and the cops were abusing their authority.
Mm-hmm. And he kills the one on
murdered
accident.
The guy.
But then
that
the
was
second
so dumb.
one was
so dumb.
That was a little
hits
bit
him
like
with his head. Like they should have shown like maybe like his nose
more
got like
blood,
shoved up into his brain and
or maybe a straight blaster hit him or something. Like it was a little bit surprising.
You killed
that
him.
He somehow died. But...
How he bonked his head.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. But if you accept the fact that somehow he did end up killing him on accident, and it was a genuine accident, realizing, oh crap, I'm in real trouble now, and he made the admittedly overall morally wrong decision to just kill the other guy.
Murder.
But you can kind of understand where he's like, I can't be caught. This is going to be a problem. And the guy, again, kind of like
the guy who even gave him an out. He was like, look, let's go in together. I don't want to die. I'm sorry. What I did was wrong.
Yeah.
We'll go in together. I'll tell him it was an accident.
Yeah. So, but again, I also could see why Andor might not really believe him because he'd been being such an ass until then.
I get that they're making him make a hard choice, right?
Yeah.
Which it's interesting. I'm not saying, oh, he's completely in the wrong, but he is a murderer.
It's
okay?
interesting storytelling because
but that was the point. They're
Yeah.
forcing him to have to make a morally gray decision, which
Mm-hmm.
to me is why it doesn't feel Star Warsy. Star Wars has never been about gray. It's been black and white. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad. It's interesting.
I do see what you're saying.
But then they go and they're trying to frame the most interesting character in the show. He doesn't know that these people were robbing him, right? His superior tries to tell him to fudge
that's
the
probably
number.
what was going on.
Yeah, he says, hey, look, they were doing some stuff they weren't supposed to. They were in a brothel. First off, the show opens in a brothel. Okay, that doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. Okay, that's not.
I can accept that exists
Star Wars.
in that universe, even though we haven't seen it in all.
I get that they've always
stuff,
been there.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've shied away from those things. In Star Wars
Han is literally a spice runner. Yeah. So.
Okay, I'm just pointing out that this is why it feels a little different to me. Okay, not saying
Fair,
it's bad.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So you have the other cop guy who's being told by his superior to lie, fudge the numbers, so that we don't get an investigation. And I totally understand his perspective. He's literally being told to not do his job. And both characters are good. Like the explanation is good. Like, hey, we can't afford this right now. We can't afford a mix-up. We don't want the attention, and they were probably doing something bad.
Yep.
That's why this show's good, because it's subtle. They're like, everyone has a reason to be doing what they're doing. Okay. And he says, look, we don't want to get mixed up in this. Please don't do it. And even the line he says, like he says, like, and for now you have a job here, like implying if you do this, I'm going to fire you. Like he's abusing his authority, like trying to like, hey, shut this down or you're fired. And then he leaves, which was a stupid decision, right? This guy's obviously not going to let it go
out. Yeah, but
in his mind, two people just got murdered, and he's being asked to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah,
and his character is 100% justified, but he's being framed as the bad guy.
Well, and I think it's to me, it comes down to the way that they're showing him being overly dogmatic about it. Again, it's the fact that he is
like the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law.
Right. And to the point of his superior saying, like, look, these guys were also probably doing their own problem. So rather than try to expose this whole thing, where what we should do, it would be expose that they were doing the thing that they shouldn't have been doing when they then got murdered.
Yeah.
Let's just make it a wash, because we could say there was corruption here and then something bad happened, and we'll catch the bad guy that murdered them. But we'll also be exposing the fact that there was some corruption and problems here. So let's make it a wash, because we just need to move on. And there's especially the line where he's like, and we really don't want the numbers to look bad, because we're going. So that's very realistic, though, is the thing, is that he's. So I like that. And then he disobeys his direct orders, but for his points and purposes, where he feels like this is what, there were people that were murdered. But I think that the way that he approaches it is so much like one of our people was murdered.
Yeah.
I feel like
dogmatic. Yeah.
And I feel like, for example, if they had found a dead body of Cassian there after the cops, and they're not even cops, they're just like security people for a mining corporation or something like that, I think. But it's like, yeah, if they'd found Cassian dead, he'd have just been like, oh, well, that sucks. He was a terrible. So he puts so much on the focus of like, oh, it's one of our people that was murdered.
He's complex. He's written well. So on one hand, I like how they're being subtle and they're showing you different sides and saying like, hey, morally gray. I like morally gray. Okay. So I like that they're being subtle, but then I can also see them pushing a little bit of wokeness and and they have the line where they, all of the cops are like that. They're all abusing their authority.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first lines of the show. Oh, they all come in here and flash the badge and get free stuff and try and harass people. And I'm like, okay, but you've only shown us two people doing it. Okay. And it also it shows that there were good people. The guy was trying to stop this from happening. But then like they're pretty clearly trying to do like a whole racial thing with they say, oh, he was attacked by a man with dark features. But like if you look at Diego Luna, he doesn't look significantly different from anyone else on the planet, right? Like his girlfriend is darker than he is. But it's clearly trying to be like, oh, it's a racial profiling thing. I don't really get why
I don't always interpret dark features as dark complexion, for example, but just the dark hair and the dark eyes. It probably was. You're probably right. I have a tendency of giving the benefit of the doubt and seeing
also,
things more on the surface. I don't understand and all that naively, but
I don't understand like this. The planet that he's from is like desolate because everyone died, but he's like the native from there, and apparently he has to keep it a secret that he survived that. That doesn't make sense to me. They haven't given me a reason to know why he would need to keep his planet a secret, or why.
There is a bit of a mystery box going on there, where it's like, oh, something else was going on. That it's a big problem if he's from there.
How dare you gotta hide your heritage? And they're building it up, and I don't see a good payoff for it, other than just racial profiling.
Yeah, but see, the thing is for me, I will still be happier with.
But I'm
this
invested.
In the end.
I'm invested.
Yeah. I'll still end up happier with this than I feel like I was for Obi-Wan and Boba Fett because
even if they already happier, okay?
Even if they end up leaning into all of that, it feels like they're going to do it in an interesting and compelling way.
Yeah.
They're not just like, because even when they do paint with the semi-broad strokes of saying like, oh, all these cops are being bad,
I can put up with a little bit of wokeness if the quality of the show is good.
Well, because there is some, like, to your point, of incredibly nuanced stuff going on here. We've got the sort of thing where it's like, yes, there is nuance when the things that people are fighting for when there's these woke agendas going on.
She's not currently his girlfriend. It's pretty much it's pretty heavily implied that they had something in the past.
Yeah, and then it's the other guy that's dating her that was jealous.
And even to defend the show even more, like Star Wars has historically portrayed the Imperial forces in that light, that they're all bad eggs, right?
Yeah,
these aren't necessarily Imperial. They're freelance, so it's like I get it. It's nothing new. So they're using what's already been there, but I can see what they're doing, and it bothers me a little bit.
Yeah,
but the writing is good enough. I'm willing to that's fine.
What I was driving at though is the idea that there are there's a lot of good and true things and worthwhile things that are being fought for by these people that are going for the wokeness. It's just when they allow that to they a lot of times it goes too far.
He can't find his sister. He's looking for his sister. That's an old.
But I
flame.
do see where that confusion comes from, Mark, because it felt like maybe that could have been his sister, but then since they're still looking for her means that it wasn't. But the way they framed that was a little bit confusing. Anyway, I do like that because there is that complexity. There is some nuance to a lot of the things that these people are fighting for are worthwhile to fight for. They're just doing it in a way where they're making that the first thing, the top thing, and making it something that takes away from the whole point of the entertainment that's associated with it. And I don't know, but I do think that like it's fun to be able to explore this. And I've been hearing a lot of people that say they would love to see a little bit more of that moral ambiguity, or even being able to say, rather than all of our good guys have to be absolutely good, like Boba Fett somehow not being a bounty hunter that's ruthless, and he has to be somebody who just wants peace and respect. Like just the way that they handle that is like we want our good guys to be good so that you can only root for the good guys, versus having the really cool and intimidating bad guys that you're like,
Boba Fett was interesting because he wasn't a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I think that it's fun to be able to explore that. You get this Diego Luna, the Cassian Andor, who is kind of a a little bit more there.
I'm invested and I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So.
I want to see where they're taking the story, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't go the route that the actors are saying it's going to go. Saying the bad guys trump, guys, and just shut up. Like why would you try and intentionally have your audience?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a case of a rogue actor just talking.
Just talking. Well, and I think it's also a matter of perspective sometimes too, where they're like, this thing that we maybe have some sort of a commentary against this aspect of society. They also feel like Trump embodies that aspect of that society, whereas it's not really that simple. Because again, hey, the whole thing has been
the other actress
simplifying to this is bad and this is good. You know?
Yeah, the other interview the actress gave it is like, she's part of the Imperial forces and she's just surrounded by completely incompetent men and who are just worthless idiots, and so she's trying to climb the ladder. I'm like, that doesn't look good for you. Yeah. Why would you use this as promotion for your show? Yeah. No one cares. So it's weird because I don't think people are watching the show because they've already turned off the people who would have liked the show from the show. The people they're trying to target. Well, I don't even want to say that, but like the fans that are left, the Star Wars fans that are left, aren't used to this kind of subtlety. I think they're going to find it boring. They're used to Rise of Skywalker. Oh no, I am all the Jedi, and if I can't beat you with one lightsaber, 2 lightsabers. I don't know what it's insane to me what Disney has done with Star Wars.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. I have liked several things that Disney Star Wars has done. Rebels was technically Disney, and Mando seasons 1 and 2. Those are good. I liked The Force Awakens. I even like a lot of things in Last Jedi, even though that really started twisting the fact that and setting up a spiral for Rise of Skywalker really not being great.
This Rise of Skywalker was so bad. Oh well, I'm interested to see where they go, but I'm not invested anymore. Like I'm literally just looking at this like it's just a generic sci-fi. Speaking of things that aren't subtle, She-Hulk is garbage.
I'm still in the spot where I'm just like, I'm gonna just enjoy it on the surface, and it's just whatever.
Have you seen this one yet? Sorry, incels. Not all content is made for you. I couldn't possibly agree more, which is why I don't want to be watching this show, which is why I'm pissed off that you're putting Daredevil in it.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for a long time. I don't want to watch She-Hulk, so don't make me do it.
Yeah.
Oops.
I was gonna say, we're sneak preview of our.
Should we do some bad takes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's do the stinger. Today's a weird episode, structure wise.
Take it bad. Wait.
Here we go.
Screen Rants. Bad takes.
John Rhys Davies returning to Indiana Jones 5 is a mistake. Much like making Indiana Jones 5 is a mistake.
And John Rhys Davies is awesome. So
yeah, no, I don't know why. I don't know why. First off, there's a much bigger glaring mistake going on here, and I don't think John Rhys Davies is part of it. That's all I have to say about this. Gal Gadot's 4-hour makeup shows Snow White will avoid one Disney problem. What do you think the problem is? Is it
having pretty people?
No. The live action reboots have focused have relied too heavily on CGI, and if they're spending 4 hours on Gal Gadot, that means that they're going to do practical effects. I got news for you. That does not mean the show is not going to rely on CGI.
Yeah.
Also, more concerning, the Snow White character doesn't have skin that's white as snow.
So absolutely, and that is kind of like that literally is part of the character. But if you're gonna have, like, honestly, the lady that they have for her,
also she's not nearly as attractive as Gal Gadot. Who's the fairest of them all? You have got to be kidding me.
I don't know. The Rachel Zegler is, I think, again, she works so well for me in spite of the fact that technically she doesn't have the
I'm not saying she's ugly. No.
Or whatever. But she sings beautifully.
She's a nice young lady.
She has a very innocent, sweet little girl kind of appearance. I think it's going to work. She's got the dark hair. She can do the red lips. For a Hispanic actress, she has very fair skin. Kind of like I say about Arondir, where it's like as a black guy, he has very fair, like the quality of his skin, if not necessarily the pigmentation of it.
The quality of his skin. Sorry, this is such a weird thing to say.
And she's a pretty pale Hispanic actress, so like, I'm actually really not bothered by that one, which is really interesting to me because, to your point, this is one of those ones more so than
it's kind of in the name.
It's literally
Snow White,
but it still ends up working for me really well. So I'm really intrigued by that.
What definitely doesn't work for me? She's a fine
she's
young lady. She's good looking, but Gal Gadot is definitely the fairest lady in the land.
Well, that's why they're taking 4 hours of makeup, to ugly her up.
Right. Well, it's for her transformation into the old hag.
Yeah, I know.
But here we go. No, Adam Sandler's Netflix movies aren't bad. They perfectly fit his career.
Lots of bad
those statements aren't mutually exclusive. That doesn't mean that they're also not bad. I like Adam Sandler, okay? And one of his Netflix movies was actually pretty good. I liked the murder mystery one. It was called Murder Mystery.
Okay.
Right? The rest of them are not good.
I honestly just haven't bothered with watching most of them. I really loved, his classic one, the Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. Happy Gilmore.
The little bit that I've seen of his dramatic acting,
I used a clip from what's it called? In the intro,
which one it was?
He goes back to school. The one where he goes back.
to
school.
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
He's also made some bad ones, and it's okay to admit that.
His trope is pretty tired, and so that's why I just haven't bothered to watch them. So I can't say that they're bad, but I expect them to be bad, which is why I haven't watched them.
The Western one that he made is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Shown in this,
that's a clip. It's like it's a Magnificent Seven, but it's called the Silly Eight or something like that.
Oh, really?
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
But hey, more power to him that he can succeed at making movies. And just
I'm super jealous of the guy that he can get away with this. But he's actually a good actor. I like it when he's in dramatic roles. Uncut Gems, he's phenomenal.
I heard really good things about that one. I remember I came across him in Spanglish at one point.
Punch Drunk Love is so good. Like
Spanglish, it's the most amazing movie. But I remember watching him in that and going like, I am not used to seeing him actually dramatically act and not just be his goofy self. And he does well at it. And that was a small little piece of it.
I'm looking forward to his basketball movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about this. They're not going to put dwarves in Snow White because it's bigotry now to give short people jobs. You played yourselves.
I'm curious what they're going to do with that then, because
I don't. I'm not going to watch it.
Did you watch the Pinocchio?
No. Why would I?
It had a couple things that were nice. There was a lot of head scratching moments and things like that. There wasn't a whole ton of like really problematic, offensive like things, but it wasn't really worth it. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. That's the thing. Anyway, sorry. Figured I'd check and see.
I have no desire to see that movie.
Fair.
Here we go. Oops. How and why Rings of Power's elves are dying when they should be immortal. Gil-galad reveals that the elves are gradually fading in the Rings of Power. Here's what that means and why it's happening and what they can do to stop. The reason why is because the showrunners made it up. And it's stupid.
I'd really love to hear Liz's perspective on this in particular, because
I can't wait.
That's kind of been my thought, but then there's also the fact that in the actual Lord of the Rings, they are also fading and have to be going off to the west or whatever.
It's like the Light of the Eldars. It's like an internal thing for each elf, and why she starts fading is because she gives it to Aragorn.
Aragorn, yeah, but she's not the only one that's fading. In the Peter Jackson movies, they're all fading. They all have to leave because it's kind of the end of their time and whatever.
But it didn't happen in the Second Age.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what else is there, but it is kind of odd to me. I don't know.
I'm not really interested in hearing any justification for it because it's stupid. But here we go. The Rings of Power makes Galadriel's Lord of the Rings ending even better.
Because she decides to go
No,
off.
it doesn't.
She
It's
finally
because
decides
in
to
Rings
go
of
off.
Power, she decides not to go to Valinor, and in Lord of the Rings, she goes to Valinor. That makes it better. No, it doesn't. It's still garbage. Stop trying to justify Rings of Power. Especially by taking down the Lord of the Rings.
So this is something that you'll always say, that they're taking down the original Lord of the Rings, and I mostly don't feel like they're necessarily trying to take it down. But here's a good example where I feel like they're not doing it, because they're saying even better. They're saying it was better, but it was even.
Okay,
So,
this article is less egregious than when they normally do it. You got a point. Still a bad take, though.
Yeah.
The Rings of Power just answered a decades-old Lord of the Rings question about.
Turns out the real treasure was the friendships we made along the way.
No, it didn't. No one was asking this question. Do you know why? Because Tolkien answered it. We didn't need to be told where the origin of Mithril.
Oh
So
yeah,
it doesn't have one. That's what it is. It's Mithril.
Oh,
they finally told us where Mithril came from.
Nobody was asking that. Yeah.
A decades-old question. For decades, Lord of the Rings has had a plot hole, and Rings of Power finally answered it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of the prime examples of what I just said.
To me, it's still not necessarily saying it's terrible, but it's worse. The other one is better at saying, like, the other one was good and this one, but yeah.
Screw you. Bask in the splendor of Middle Earth. No thanks. Rings of Power. This is the worst one. Rings of Power wasn't built for the water cooler, and that's okay. The billion-dollar TV show was made so that people would not talk about it at work.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It was always supposed to be bad.
Like
what?
What you want is a water cooler show, because you want the show where people will be talking about it. That's the reason why the week-to-week release makes a lot more sense than
to counter the articles. Then why are they releasing it weekly?
Mm-hmm.
This is
That's a weird one.
Dumbest argument I have ever heard. Why would you not want people to talk about your show?
Yeah, I'm trying to like figure out what it is that they think they're even trying to say with that.
It may not be the culture-consuming show that some might have expected, but there's something to admire about this adaptation is building its future. It's building nothing. Should we skip to the... I'm trying to see if there's a bullet point. It's kind of one of those word salad things where it doesn't actually tell you. Yeah, okay, the prestige of Lord of the Rings was always going to be more about the execution of the environments. No. Do you know why people like Lord of the Rings? Because it's a good story. They also happen to like the world. But primarily, it's the story. You know, the story that's been copied millions of times by every other fantasy writer.
Right? It's like they're maybe trying to think that they're saying that it's, because it's less about the destination, more about the journey, which is what we were talking about earlier.
Which is the opposite of what the show is doing.
Actually doing it right. Like, it's not doing very well at that. Like, they're trying to say that, that's what's happening, is they're making it more about the journey. Like, but the journey is not really making a whole lot of sense right now.
Rings of Power, especially in its Numenor sequences, is thriving on the lived-in details of places that have never made it onto screen before.
So
and giving us no reason to care about them.
So lived in with those very pristine costumes, which I
feel like
it's kind of working because it's supposed to be a pristine place, but yeah.
This is the exact problem that people had with Luc Besson's newest movie.
Luc Besson.
Luc Besson. Sorry, I said it. I said his name wrong. The Fifth Element. Everyone loves. It's a cult classic because the story is fantastic and the world is weird and interesting. And then he
the
crowdfunded
$1,000.
Yeah, he crowdfunded his own movie because he wanted to do Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. And it had no story. It was 100% world building, and the world looked cool, and no one cared about the movie because there was no story.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you take their argument at face value, it doesn't make sense because it's not about it. It's fast. The argument says it's about the journey, and then when backing up the argument, it says it's about the journey because it's showing us all of the locations.
Yeah.
And it's not telling us the story. That's the opposite of what you're trying to argue.
Yeah. And just showing cool locations, it's like that's not a good.
There's curtains back. Yeah.
Just showing the locations, it's like, well, just shoot a nature documentary in New Zealand. Like you'll see the beautiful landscapes in New Zealand. You don't you didn't need to spend $1 billion making a show.
Yeah, go watch a documentary
just to
about
show
New
us
Zealand.
New Zealand. Like if that's what you wanted to do, great, show us a documentary about New Zealand.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to show us a Lord of the Rings show, then show us a Lord of the Rings show, and you can have the landscape of New Zealand in there. That adds a lot to it, but that can't be the reason for your show. That doesn't make it good.
Yeah. Okay. There's
Ooh,
a bunch.
2 weeks
There's a
of
couple
no
more.
rocks for me.
No rock. Yeah. Jared's been pretty good tonight, guys. We might invite him back on the show. He's only disagreed with me like 3 times. He's almost met his quota of 5. But
hit that quota and I just disappear like the extra Corwins.
Yes. I'll just stream by myself. Hello, everybody.
Well, it's gonna
be a riveting discussion.
Except that Corwin generally tends to agree with you. It's like that's why there were so many clone Corwins, is because he'd reach his limit and he'd have to pop up as a clone.
I don't know. He's always telling me I'm too harsh on shows, so we agreed.
That's why you need to keep kicking him out, and he has to keep coming back as somebody else.
Yeah. We got a couple more. Why Galadriel comes off as unlikable in the Rings of Power. I think we all already know the reasons, guys.
Is this a good take?
But Screen Rat, you did it. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Screen Rat. You got a good take.
Screen Rats. Good takes?
My little boy's all grown up and finally making sense in one out of every 1,000 article.
Yeah, I was going to say they hit one every now and then.
I could read the article, but it's literally just everything we've been saying. Good job, Sarah Richards. You get. I need like an award I can give out, right? Like you get the Screen Rant.
Good take.
What's the Aladdin thing? The Diamond in the Rough.
Oh yeah,
you get Screen Rant's Diamond in the Rough. Good job, Sarah Richards. Why Pirates of the Caribbean never really worked as a franchise. This is also a good take. It's kind of disconnected, but I wanted to discuss it. And it's because it didn't know if it wanted to be a standalone movie or a franchise. And the only argument I would counter is that the first movie was a standalone movie, and that's why it was good.
Yeah.
And then they tried to elongate the story and turn it into a franchise, and it never really found its footing.
Never got to anywhere close to the heights that it started out originally.
Because again, the world building was still great. Like the Liar's Dice scene in 2 and freaking Davy Jones is like some of the best CGI in the history of ever. And it's also like 20 years old now, and it still looks better than Rings of Power.
Yep.
Like the world building is great, but 2 and 3, the story is kind of bad.
Yeah.
Because
really
it was all fluff, you know.
Really, it's 4 that was the worst for me. 2 and 3, I find enough redeeming, and there's some fun adventures going on. It got a little wonky, but it was mostly there was some good stuff there. And then 4 was just like, yeah, you're really just trying way too hard now, because it became less of a it was so disconnected from the rest of the other story, because
the focus wasn't on the story anymore. The focus was on the franchise.
And then they were like, we're gonna do something else, and like, yeah, then that didn't work. That's why 5 actually almost kind of worked a little bit, because it kind of came back a little bit.
I still haven't seen it.
It's not great. I'm not gonna pretend like it's amazing.
I like me some Javier Bardem though.
Yeah, Javier Bardem's in there.
It's funny though. Javier Bardem is married to Penelope Cruz, and they got Penelope Cruz for number 4, and then him for number 5.
Yeah.
As it's a little trivia, I know.
A little trivia thing, yeah.
Not jealous of Javier Bardem at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, this is a good article. So yeah, also congratulations to Cathal Gunning. You get verified gold star diamond in the
or a certified no prize, as Mike is talking about.
Certified no prize, because he still worked for Screen Rant, and that's kind of shameful. But yeah, no, the first one focused on the story. The rest, the story was ancillary to the franchise, and that's why it didn't work.
Yep.
Here's another good one. Monkey Island is good. They're great games.
I've heard good things. Yeah.
Go play them. They're fun and hilarious.
How many are there?
5 or 6.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of them particularly, but I've been hearing a little bit about them lately, and I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, aren't there like 2, maybe 3 of them? This is kind of an odd thing to rank 2 or 3 entries. But if there's 6, then
yeah,
it's
the
my
ranking
bad.
is kind of silly. Yeah. Escape from Monkey Island, probably the worst. Tales of Monkey Island, yeah. I completely agree with
their rankings.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I might put Curse of the Monkey Island as number 1 though. Number 3 is real good. No, yeah, I wouldn't put 2 as the best. I'd put 1 over 2. I'd go 3, 1, 2, and then the rest is pretty good.
Yep. Hey, how many good takes are we doing on this? What is this segment here? Come on.
Well, this is Game Rat, so it
Rat
doesn't count. But yeah, if you haven't played Monkey Island, those games are absolutely hilarious. Even if you don't like point and click adventures, like just the story is so good. Like just look up a walkthrough and just play and just read the story. It's so fun. Nice. I can't tell you how many times I've played the first Monkey Island game. I could probably beat the whole thing in like 20 minutes.
Nice.
Because I love
you're
it so
familiar with it, yeah.
But you don't want to beat it in 20 minutes because you want to read all the funny jokes.
Yep.
Hilarious. Also, fun side note, if you don't know this, the insults in the first game were written by Orson Scott Card.
Oh, fun.
It's been a little trivia night tonight.
I'm going to end your game. Wait.
That wasn't good.
It came out. I'm just like, I'm just gonna like move on from that. I'm gonna let him move on from that.
Insult sort fighting. The insults were written by Orson Scott Card, and they're hilarious. I still have all of them memorized.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the last struggle I was in left my hands covered in blood. Oh, well, I hope you've learned to stop picking your nose. On guard, touche. Oh, that's so cliche. Yeah, so good, so good. Here's another one. Why Daredevil is re-entering the MCU with supporting roles. I would really like to know.
Yeah.
If someone could answer this question, that'd be great. Because it's really stupid that this is the case, because he's the best
really
character.
Wish that they could just embrace saying that those other shows were a part of the MCU from the beginning, and then just take them wholesale. I'm more and more afraid that they're going to say that they're similar but not the same. They're like it's
rebooted. It's going to be a reboot. It's going to completely ignore everything. They already ignored everything that happened with Kingpin. He's a shadow of his former self.
That much I can even still see them saying, well, we're writing it differently, but it's supposed to be the same thing, and it maybe not making sense, but they say that it's the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just loved those shows so much. I just a little while back, I went back and just listened to the intro music for Daredevil.
The intro is so good. It bangs. It's like it's like dark and broody. That's like
and the blood covering the city and revealing the city because of them being blind and justice and blood. So good.
Daredevil's good. Good night, Jacob. We're almost done. You made it through most of the show. Here's a couple more. Forget Daredevil. She-Hulk gives us Patty Harrison's steam-sealing performance.
Is that her friend that's getting married?
This article completely encapsulates the reason why I hate She-Hulk. Forget Daredevil.
We got some other random person.
The random side character who appeared in this episode and was awful the whole time had a scene-stealing performance.
What was even supposed to be the scene-stealing performance?
I don't know.
She said, "Please don't overshadow me at my wedding." And then she says,
"She was just a
oh, She-Hulk is here! Yay!"
She was just awful the whole time.
What?
For those who are not aware yet, Harrison is one of the most talented and funny performers you can see anywhere. She does stand up, I guess. I've never heard of her.
Maybe she does deserve to get her own show and be really.
Her first
awesome.
line is, "Everyone has an ass, and I don't want you to be hulky at my wedding." Give her an Oscar.
I actually did kind of like her.
Bravo!
I did kind of like her. Everyone has an ass line. I mean, it did not stand out. It is not something that is going to make me think that she needs her own show by itself. But it was a funny little thing where it's like, yeah, calm down, people. It's just, yeah.
They still haven't given an example of why her appearance was so good, other than she was a little bit funny and was just acted horrible the whole time. She was completely forgettable.
Yeah, and the one thing with the show where it was saying, do you think that this episode is inconvenient?
If women do it, it's okay. If women do the objectifying against men or women, then it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, the bit where she's like, "You think that this wedding episode is inconvenient? Well, that's just like real weddings." I'm like, okay. I mean, that doesn't make me like the fact that you're out here, but sure.
Doesn't make me want to watch.
Yeah. I appreciated that line, but it still didn't change the fact that I'm like, okay.
Yeah, especially after the teaser for the last episode was that we're finally going to give you Daredevil now. Oops, we're going to a wedding. Yep. Also, this is like episode 6, right? There's 2 more episodes.
It might be 3. I think it might be 9 episodes.
I think there's only 2 more episodes of this garbage.
So they made you watch all of this they'll probably have one scene with Daredevil in it.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is good though. I stopped watching She-Hulk, and it changes the way I think about the MCU. You don't have to be all in on the MCU, and I couldn't agree more. You don't have to care about the MCU at all anymore. I don't. I just really like Daredevil, and I wish I didn't have to watch the She-Hulk to get my Daredevil fix.
And the difference for me is that I'm still totally down to just watch and see everything, even if it's not really for me.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it and make fun of it. That's all I could say. Because let's talk. What happened in this episode? It was a wedding, and they still, for some reason, Tatiana is not.
Tatiana Maslany's character, Titania.
Titania.
Sorry, Tatiana Maslany is She-Hulk.
That's the main character. That's the main actor.
Jamila Jamil is the actress's name.
Titania is somehow still not in jail after she attempted to murder an entire jury.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're going to make this about you," and they can't decide whether or not Jen wants to be proud of She-Hulk or not. because up until this point it was, oh, I want people to like me as Jen, not She-Hulk. But then she has an episode where, oh, but I want to bang a bunch of dudes as She-Hulk and not Jen. And then she goes back, oh, but I don't want people to just like me for She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And in this, she shows up to a wedding as She-Hulk and then gets offended that might possibly outstage the bride.
They did actually acknowledge that a little bit in the fact that she was saying the one time that I didn't want to be me and wanted to be able to show off that something big had happened, and I didn't feel like I had anything else to do with that. But yeah.
I haven't enjoyed anything from the MCU since Endgame, and Spider-Man: No Way Home doesn't count. That it's a Sony movie. It's not an MCU movie, and that's literally the only thing that's been good since Endgame for me.
I've liked enough since then. I really did like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was really good.
It started off good. Yeah. Started off good.
We had this discussion last week too. So yeah.
I'll just say the same thing. I haven't seen the Dahmer show. I don't have Netflix right now. I don't know if I'll watch it. I've seen the trailer, and it kind of feels like they're romanticizing it a little bit.
And it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Nikki, about the idea of like not wanting to watch Game of Thrones because it feels dark and rapey.
Yeah. How are you interested in Dahmer? Come on, I need some consistency, Nikki.
But that's the kind of show where like
that is the typical like that is a typical white woman show, though, right? You guys watch way too many murder documentaries.
Yes. Oh man. But it's like somehow, and I do see there is a difference, but at the same time, that's the dark and rapey or the dark and cannibal-y or whatever else is you're going to go for with that one. I just don't want to consume, especially.
You said it out of order. It's dark and murdery and then rapey.
Yeah,
and then consuming.
Cannibal-y, yeah, and then it was consuming. Yeah, it's like I don't want to consume that, and I'm like, wait, that was the best choice of words.
yeah, exactly. No, so my wife read a biography about not Dahmer, about the other famous one. Netflix has made like 6 movies about him. Why can't I remember?
Gacy,
the Mormon,
John Wayne Gacy, or
no, the good-looking one.
The shockingly evil, vile,
incredibly vile
that guy.
Why can't I remember? Bundy. Goodness.
Bundy. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. My wife read a biography on Ted Bundy, and it like just like ate it up, and then wouldn't kiss me for 2 months.
Oh.
Because it messed her up so bad. She would like wake up at night with terrors and start hitting me. I'm like, no more murder documentaries for you. You're done.
Yeah. And yet they still keep wanting to go back to it.
The Ted Bundy show sucked. That was the Zac Efron one?
The shockingly evil, vile one.
I
didn't necessarily take that out of it. We watched it, and I thought it was.
Yeah, I actually liked it because it made the focus on the wife. Were they married?
I don't know if they were.
Liz Kendall. I liked Shockingly Evil because the movie, she was the focus of the movie, and it showed like her, like how she was deceived by him, and how and eventually, like learning the truth. And you wanted
to see more.
I don't understand you. Game of Thrones is too dark. I didn't feel like it made him the bad guy. It made him the side character in his own story, which I thought was a good approach to telling the Ted Bundy story, because it didn't romanticize his killings, which is why I don't know if I'm going to watch the Dahmer show, because judging by the trailer, it kind of feels like it kind of feels like murder porn, in that they're playing into it, and I
that's what some people want. So,
don't know if I want to see that.
Yeah.
So,
it's what dark and twisted people like Nikki want.
I know what. Yeah, white women and murder documentaries is it's almost as common a pair as pumpkin spice, right?
Yeah. Murder porn.
You would love Game of Thrones. I don't know.
There's a lot of murdering going on. There's even some chopping of masculinity that happens.
Okay, I was saying we were talking about She-Hulk, not Ted Bundy. There was
Speaking
nothing
of chopping
happens.
up masculinity, no, I'm just kidding.
I just don't understand. Like these people are writing a legal drama and they don't understand how the real legal system works.
Yeah,
like she would be in jail, and like I feel like they don't even understand women either. Like,
I mean, us two white guys are going to be the best to talk about that.
Also,
but I do think you're kind of right. But yeah,
but like these women aren't good people. Like there hasn't been a single like good female role model in the show. They're all selfish, self-centered.
Maybe the paralegal friend?
They're all trying to like one up each other at the wedding, and like Jen shows up to a wedding like clearly trying to make it about her, and then gets offended when she's told no, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And but and then the next episode is upset that people only see her as She-Hulk, and it's just so. It's so dumb. Also, the people that the show is focusing on, like, they're so rich and entitled. These are the worst people in society. And I'm not just talking about Mr. Immortal. I'm talking about why would you be friends with someone like that? The wedding friend who tells you to clean up. But Jen is just as bad. Like Jen is just as bad as her awful friend. These aren't
Maybe
good
they're just trying to make Jen look not quite as bad, because I would argue that her friend is worse. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're trying to like make this like down to earth like connect to women show, but the people they're showing on screen are like millionaires and only buy Prada. Right, like even her secretary is pretty stuck up too, and like buying designer stuff, and like the average woman, the life of the average person, woman or man, is so vastly different from these people that are in this show. And the show writers and runners genuinely don't understand that. They don't understand. They're trying to make the show to connect to normal people, and they have no idea what real life is like.
Yeah, and I mean, you even look at when they did things like Iron Man, where most of us are not the owners of $1 billion weapons manufacturing company, but they're able to connect it to a really good story that fits, that we can identify with, a guy trying to grapple with his own, decisions in life and trying to do the right thing in the end, things like that.
Yeah, I could not agree more with this comment. Yeah, they just don't know what real women are like or know what they want. However, I know everything about women. I know what they want. Trust me.
but that's why I do appreciate having Nikki in here, assuming that it's actually a girl. But everything that they've said seems to be consistent with that. That there, you can see even a lot of women are feeling that way, and that's why I love when we do have Martina in here to be like, yeah, that's kind of weird. So that we're like, yeah, we're not just crazy. It's not just because we're white guys that we assume wrong. Like,
yeah,
not all women are like that. Anyway.
I hate the show, and I wasn't planning on watching it. I didn't want it, and even if I did watch it, I wasn't gonna critique it because it's clearly not made for me until you wrapped Daredevil into it and made me watch it. Now I'm upset. I'm not enjoying it. It's garbage. And you notice how they're constantly attacking YouTubers like me in the show?
Yeah.
Anyone who has a like obviously I'm not a very big YouTuber, but they're like clearly attacking people like Nerdrotic and the Quartering. and people in that vein of like, these are the worst incels.
Incels has become just such a
the
buzzword
memes
for
are
people that
so
are mad.
cringy. The fake memes from the haters that they show on the show are so cringy. Like, we're a lot more funny than that. Like, you got to give us more credit.
I don't know. I don't feel like they're that far off, but
it's pretty cringe.
I don't know. It is kind of interesting, and yeah, we'll see though.
Oh yeah, and then the subplot was this guy who lives forever, who they don't understand how the legal system works. The whole plot is he kills himself to get out of marriages so that he can save his money. But Jared, what happens when you die?
Usually that ends up
who
going
gets
to
all
your
your
spouse.
money?
Yeah,
your wife. So every time he kills himself, he loses everything. He doesn't have a single legal claim to any of his money. I don't understand what the show's about. And their legal solution is to sit on the desk and say, "You get a purse, and you get a vacation."
20 seconds of eye contact, and
like, and the whole point was like, he goes to them saying, "Hey, I need your help, or they're going to bleed me dry." And the solution is to bleed him dry.
Yeah,
these are bad lawyers. They are bad at their jobs.
Well,
the writers don't know how any of this works.
The difference, though, being that he comes to them saying, "Hey, they're going to bleed me dry," and she looks at everything and straight up tells him, "The reality is, you have no foot to stand on. You're gonna have to pay. So let's just do what we can to make it so that it's only so much." So it's like,
never died. He does have a foot to stand on.
But he deceived them.
They could have actually made it interesting and said, "Well,
he should have divorced."
They could have gone into the legal technicalities. Yeah. Well, did he die or did he not die? Because that will affect how his estate is handled.
Mm-hmm.
That would have kind of been interesting.
But then he technically would have been like, but he didn't divorce them. But then at the same time, they would have, because then when they were divorced, they would have been entitled to something, if not all of it, like he would have if he had died. But you're right. They kind of just gloss over that into it. It was just kind of weird. The thing that kind of bothers me is now go ahead, you're good.
What meeting were they in? Women didn't have a lawyer present.
Mm-hmm.
Each of them should have had a different lawyer.
Their own lawyer, yeah. Or
and the only lawyer that was present was hired by the man, and they were both actively working against the man. So much so that they don't listen to their own client to the point where he jumps out of the window to kill himself. That was honestly the first point in the show where I was like, I get that. I relate.
There was a little bit of that, though. There was a little bit of this, like I get. I think that the women that were telling him, like, what the heck were you thinking? We're technically right in the things that they were saying, but they were just berating him so much that I agree that it was really interesting.
They are so unprofessional. These are they're supposed to be like the best female lawyers, right? The last episode, they spent the whole time telling you that this is the best lawyer ever. You're just a shining example of lawyerness, and she's completely incompetent as a lawyer.
Yeah. The other thing that really kind of bothers me is
Kate Blanchett did nail Galadriel. Go on.
That's true. The thing that kind of confuses me and I is you've got Mr. Invincible, right? You have Titania. Who the heck are these people with powers?
I know. Where do they come from?
Are you going to go into the direction of saying
that
there's people with superpowers, or are you going to say like they're just all over the world and we don't have, like, maybe they're setting up, oh, there's mutants now, and so there's going to be this, and they're all mutants, but that's not really what's happening.
I don't think they're ever going to say the word mutant, even though they own the rights to.
They did.
When?
So that's what you missed in Ms. Marvel.
They used the word mutant. Okay, because I thought they were. Okay.
That is one of the reasons that I think you should watch it. First of all, I will say Ms. Marvel, while not
can't make me.
You don't have to. But wait a second. I thought you were going to kick me out. Now I'm confused.
You can't make me watch Ms. Marvel. I'm not going to do it.
It is nowhere near as egregious as She-Hulk. Still maybe not made for you, but I think it's still enjoyable for a show that is not made for you. It's a show that still can fit there. And that's one of the things that bothers me a bit about She-Hulk is the fact that even though, sure, it's not made for me, whatever, there's a lot of shows that may not be made for me that I can still enjoy because they find ways to connect.
Right.
This Marvel, I think, does that pretty well. At the very end, what they do, though, is they basically hinted the idea that she is a mutant. You have a scene where her friend basically tells her
powers from that watch or whatever that she finds.
So the whole course of the thing says that it has to do with her genealogy, and they think it's because she's actually a descendant from these people from a different dimension. And then the question kind of then comes up, well, then wouldn't her brother also have been able to get powers if he'd worn the bangle? And the friend says, no, I actually took another look at your genetic profile, because apparently high school can get, pull apart her entire genetic profile, but whatever. And he's like, there's something different about you. Like there's some sort of mutation. And then they play the 90s X-Men theme behind it. You probably would have hated it because she then just goes, nah, it's just going to be another. She kind of like brushes it off, but so it kind of undercuts it a little bit. But it was interesting because rather than making her an Inhuman, it made her a mutant. And I'm like, okay, so they are starting to pull that in. That's really the only thing that you need to know from it. It was fine. Yeah. There's also a post-credit scene where it looks like she's switched places with Captain Marvel. So whenever the Marvels comes out, that's probably going to be something with that.
The last I'd heard, they weren't even planning on using. They were planning on bringing in X-Men, but they weren't planning on using the term mutant. But I guess that's changed. Yeah. But the fact that they have owned the X-Men for this long and still haven't brought them into the MCU just shows the sheer throw out all of the garbage movies they've come out with. The fact that they haven't made that decision is a huge illustration of the sheer incompetence of the people running the MCU. Why have you not introduced the X-Men yet? What is wrong with you?
I disagree a little bit on that because they did explicitly say when they got them, they said, we're not going to touch them for 5 years because...
And that is a bad choice.
Maybe.
I know what they said.
I wouldn't want them to rush into it. So arguably, maybe they haven't done the best with executing the plan that they had at the time, but they wanted to play out the stuff that they had planned, whether or not they've executed it very well or had a great plan. They, I literally Googled that to be like
Carson.
Yeah, a little bit. The ginger beard has a little bit of that going on. Yeah,
he's got a higher cheekbone than you do.
Mm-hmm. My neck's not quite as thick. I mean, and it's definitely not muscle thick. It's more fat thick. But and I don't really have enough of this. I need to.
You need to hit the gym.
There we go. So I don't know. I'm okay with it because I do want them to take their time and do it right. Them taking their time doesn't mean they will do it right, but I hope that it improves the chances that they'll do it right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any faith in the MCU or Star Wars anymore.
I can understand that. I definitely feel like there's definitely been a disconnect since the end of Endgame. Endgame really was a very good high point. Somebody said earlier where it was flawed but great, flawed but a good ending. I thought it was really awesome. I have still enjoyed a lot of the things since, but it is nowhere near hitting those same highs. I'm hoping that they can maybe come back to a good spot with that. But that's because I'm an optimist, and as opposed to you're going to just take the negative. But I do see where you're coming from with that. I do see why you're saying that. The X-Men animated series and the theme song on that thing. Ooh.
Oh yeah, the animated series, and they're redoing it now, right? That's one of the things on their site.
They're making a
to destroy the X-Men animated series.
It's supposed to be a continuation in the same art style and supposed to continue the story. Is what I remember hearing about it.
I think the only thing that's not going to continue is the talent.
We'll have to see, but it's possible. Hope springs eternal. Okay.
Not with Disney. Yeah.
But
we'll
see.
There are some good things in life. House of the Dragon has been fun, and Andor has kind of been interesting, even though I don't care about Star Wars anymore.
Top Gun is on Amazon Prime.
Top Gun's on Amazon Prime
now?
I
think it's still in theaters.
Yeah,
it's on Amazon freaking Prime.
I'm gonna go watch that right now.
Do it.
So good. Last week I mentioned I was gonna do a new segment where we like introduce a good thing, like a film or TV recommendation. The one I was going to plug this week, I'm gonna save for next week because I wanted to talk about it with David specifically because we've both seen it. So I don't have a new one, but I finished Band of Brothers and it was really good.
Nice.
Last time I'd only watched the first 3 episodes. I binged it the next day because I was feeling a little sick, and I think it's the best war movie. Saving Private Ryan is pretty good though. It's right up there. It's a toss up between Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan. Like, this is the best depiction of war in media I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
it's not an amazing one, but if you're looking for something to recommend, Cobra Kai is enjoyable.
Cobra Kai's fun.
We can go with that if you can't get anything else.
It's stupid. Turn your brain off. Fun. But the writing is good enough that you can look past the stupidity. And it's a show about karate, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of understand that the plot has to be stupid so that you can get to the fun karate. It's like you don't watch Fast and the Furious movies because of the plot. You watch it because it knows it's silly and they're going to fly cars in space.
Yeah. It's consistent with the source material, the original Karate Kid movies. They're good.
Yeah, and I would say
toss an Edge Runner there. That's probably a good recommendation.
Yeah,
good, positive one, or at least it better be, or else I'm going to be really mad at Corwin.
Well, he doesn't watch animated stuff, so I completely trust him.
Yeah, that's high praise, putting it on the level with Arcane. So
Arcane was so good. Yeah, and we just talked about how Corwin and I both quit League of Legends recently. Like, I'm done with it, even though I can't stand the game anymore. But it's taken up a huge portion of my life. But Arcane was still so good, so good. Midway. Oh, that's the newer one. Okay, it didn't look great, but I'll give it a shot. That's also Tom Hanks, right? Yes. I know things. Yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about tonight. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a couple new viewers because my videos started blowing up. So thanks for coming to the stream.
Congratulations.
It's been a good time. I love doing this. I just like talking about nerdy crap. But yeah, you guys got the sneak peek of tomorrow's video, the episode 5 edit, and I hope to have part 2 done by Wednesday. So, but we'll see you guys next week when we talk about more of this garbage. And we'll see you then.
See ya.
Oh, I can't find the button. Where's the button? There it is.
Where? Who?